Welcome everyone to the GSL Round of 8 Group B. The last two players to move on to the round of 4 will be determined here today. And there is still a chance to avoid the top 4 Terran catastrophe that was last season. In the top right of this first preliminary match, sending out some SCVs, he is TY. And on the bottom left, we do have Dark. So definitely go into a lot of things to discuss right now for this matchup. I just want to apologize for being so late about the upload and the cast, as I was moving. I was literally physically moving, the point at which this was released, and then dealing with all the usual moving stuff that comes along with it for the weekend. So better late than never, and better this time as opposed to after the GSL finals, which are going to be happening in just 2 days. But anywho, now that's over with, we do have the 2 racks underway. TY, an established name if you were watching StarCraft 2 prior to 2019. Around 2019, 2020. It actually seems like not correct, but it must have been around that time because I don't remember him actually doing very much in those years. Anyways, around that time, he did go to the military. I guess COVID also might have interrupted my time frame here, but he basically has not had the presence that he had a long time ago for a few years, because he did go off to the military after kind of getting lackluster results for him, I suppose. But if you were around before the bad times, then you would know that TY was a super awesome player, the likes of which we have not really seen again, but many people have tried to get close. He is back playing not just StarCraft 2, but also Brood War, and obviously he has made it to the round of 8 of GSL, so really quite cool. He decided to open up with a cheese against Dark. Dark, perhaps anticipating this, or just being Dark, is also going for a cheese. Not only a pool first, which counters these 2 racks, especially given the 2 racks is very conservative, but he also is going into a Roach Warren. So this not only counters the 2 racks, it also severely punishes it. Thank you, Kiwi, for the 7 months, by the way. This is very, 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 very dangerous for TY. He does not realize that his opponent is going into roaches as of yet. All he's thinking is, okay, this is kind of screwy. I'm not in a good position. My 2 racks has effectively failed. And now I got to think of how to macro out of this. But the problem is that there won't be much macroing to do. Roaches. And many of them going to be coming across the map without TY having any knowledge. This could not be worse. This could not be worse. Oh my god, it got worse. Yeah, low ground command center. No! I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be cheering for the underdog as well as super cool kid TY, even though I freaking love Dark. It's just, the underdog story is always a little more interesting. But if it isn't clear from the way I'm presenting this, to really clear things up, Dark is heavily favored. TY is a super awesome player. He made it to the round of 8. That's awesome. But his TVZ probably would be his worst matchup, as it's most mechanically demanding. And he is facing Korea's best Zerg, I would argue. And certainly one of their most lethal ones because of actions like this. He is totally willing to cheese you. So I'm pretty sure this just hard counters what TY does. I think this is literally a hard counter. It might have been a little more ambiguous if there was a high ground command center and a bunker, because then the Cyclone probably would be able to pop out in due time. But as it is, this is a terrible game for TY. Like, it's probably not worth playing, especially as the supply depot breaks. The Cyclone will be able to lock on retreat, I suspect. Yeah, but it's still so much damage done. So much. She's actually killing the Marines, interestingly enough. I thought he would kill the SCVs with priority, but he did make sure to target fire the command center building SCV at the last second. Last Roach finally goes down. 11 workers killed. TY down. 13 in total, as of course Dark's been spamming that drone button as soon as he realized the Roaches would be effective. There was no weird follow-up that doesn't exist in StarCraft that he had to worry about. Nope, even with the Cyclone out and about, that is hardly a concern. It should not even grab a queen, although that would be possible. It should not grab a queen. It also would possibly get a cancel on the 3rd hatch. I think that would actually be the best thing it could do, but it's going towards a queen. Like I said, I don't think it should get it. Yeah, probably a big mistake from Dark. Well, we have these games occasionally in the GSL, and once again, tempted just to fast forward a little bit. But you know what? With it being Dark, I don't have to be that tempted for very long because Dark knows when he's got someone killed. Other players will know, like a fact, they will know in their head, okay, I've won this game, but their choice to play it out will just be macro. They'll just be like, I'm ahead, I'm winning the game, I basically won the game, I'm just gonna get more ahead. Dark is absolutely the player who says, I'm winning the game, why not just kill the guy right now? Which makes him sound like a better player, but it really is just a choice. Because we know that a second attack, a follow-up all-in, could sometimes go poorly, whereas macroing from this position will almost always go well. I argue this is a position in which this all-in is going to work out fine. And Dark knows that even if this doesn't kill the guy, he would still be ahead. That's the real secret to power of this push. It's not just potentially game ending, it's, for the context of this game, it's still not all in. If it doesn't work, it's fine. And it's getting difficult to work. Stim being done and that many Marines actually being out is probably a bit of a surprise to Dark, who might have been expecting the likes of even a Banshee, actually, like something more technology focused. But no matter how you sliced it, whether it was a Banshee that would have eventually killed this, but not quick enough, or it's Mass Marine, both things will not kill the units fast enough or well enough or trade out well enough. So for a Banshee, it would live but wouldn't kill everything. For the Marines, they won't live, but they might kill everything. It might be a wash. Oh, the Widowmine splash! Ay, ay, ay. Because the Marines don't have any medevacs. So it's always, the fact is they would always get taken down and they would not be able to go across the map. And TY is, well, at this point, perhaps being a little stubborn. I guess no, he knows about third base. Yeah, he's being a little stubborn. Because again, there is no way that TY wins from this position, even if Dark were to give him 4 more minutes. TY would have to get settled on 3 bases and into a super turtle mode to win a game like this, I think. But yeah, not gonna happen. TY does admit defeats, gave it a good try, but the cheese master, didn't work out. In the bottom right, we do have TY. The top left of Neo Humanity, it is Dark. And we have no one cheesing, so I can talk a little bit more about the actual players. TY, super awesome guy, kind of pre-2020. I went to the military, came back, decided he wanted to try both play in StarCraft 2 and Brood War. He has been less than effective in that adventure. Hasn't gone very far with it, I guess. It was stopped completely for Brood War, I think, for both seasons? I'm actually not completely sure about ASL. I know he didn't make it into the ASL a couple months ago, but I don't know if there was another one or not. So he didn't make it into the Brood War tournament. And he didn't make it into GSL Season 1, but he made it in Season 2. So, you know, he's still one of the better potential players to play well in both StarCraft 2 and Brood War. But that's already a very difficult task. No one's really trying it to begin with. And to add on the almost 2 years that you're not full-time playing either one, is really quite a big deal. Like, I fully believe in the players' abilities to come back after the military service. It's been displayed by a couple of players at this point, but to do it on both games after, you know, certainly in one of them you weren't playing it for years, I just like it. It's probably the hardest possible scenario. Oh, Dark is cheesing, my bad. Dark is going for a pull first into another Roachmorn. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Is TY casting too? That's a good question. TY was the GSL commentator alongside a player. He was doing both, if that wasn't clear. I believe his epic grand final best of 7 versus Maru was in a GSL season in which he was also casting. So he cast the days he didn't play and then, you know, play. So, yeah. I don't think he's gone back to it, though. JYP filled in for him, I believe, was what happened, and then became the permanent commentator. And then he went to military as well, but he also came back. I don't actually know what the situation is. I'm going to be honest with you, but I'm pretty sure TY is not commentating. And also, TY is not seeing the Roach Rush as of yet. He did see that it was once again a pool first, however, so he knows his Reaper has a job to do. Make sure that there are no roaches on the way. There are, though, so TY needs to start prepping for that. The sooner he finds out, the better he will be able to position his add-ons. He has gone into a 3cc. There really is no doing away with that. But what he can do is make sure that the tech lab goes in the factory, bunker gets built, and SCVs are ready to pull to buy a little time on the supply depots. A 3cc does make this a little bit more difficult to not hold, but I guess it makes it difficult to successfully bust out of, I suppose. Like, that's not even correct, I guess. The 3cc is almost a non-factor to this, except for the idea of getting down your ramp. If you were able to get a Banshee, then getting down your ramp and getting some counter pressure going is really simple. You know, the Banshee just does its thing and then goes across the map. When you don't have the Banshee, when you instead have a 3rd CC, it means that your SEV losses are negligible. You don't care about them. And you have a great macro game beyond this. But again, like actually running the Zerg army away and then getting the Zerg army, the Zerg player to be concerned about your follow-up just doesn't exist. So there's pros and cons to both is what I'm trying to say poorly. And that funnily enough, oh, it's gonna die. Funnily enough, the 3rd CC, like I said, is almost a non-factor to the initial defense. It seems like one of the worst things ever. Oh my god, a 3rd CC against someone who's cheesing. Ah! But it's not, because the more important thing is the bunker, marine production, and cyclone production. All things you can get while building a 3rd CC. It's just the follow-up that changes. And the follow-up could be good. Maybe you're happy you can produce 3 SCVs at a time, no problem. Or it could be bad. You're not happy you can't get saturated on your natural base and you can't do any counter pressure. TY, he is very much a macro player. So I suspect he's looking at the positives. Ooh, almost lost a Cyclone. And the positive is he will be able to get a good SEV count and play into a macro game. He's not going to straight up lose like he did last game. Lots of cute little micros going on while I was discussing this, by the way. I just figured it wasn't going to be super important. In the grand scheme of things, it wasn't. Dark did invest a little bit more into the offense and the continued contain, but he did push away the SCV mining a little bit more. Sorry, my mouse is on the fritz. He forced a supply block because TY was so busy focusing on his micro. He didn't replace the supply depot. And in general, I think Dark was okay with that committal overall. For TY, he could have lost one Cyclone, maybe even both. Both were getting injured, but it really should never have happened. So yeah, where are we at now? Dark gets to freely do what he desires back at home, as there is literally no counter pressure. Cyclones can't do anything, assuming that speed has been built, and indeed it has. There you go, gonna kill the Cyclones. Gonna kill the Cyclones, gonna kill them, I'm gonna kill them, I'm gonna kill them. Let's come out to save them. I'm not sure that's a good idea. Saves one of them. Yeah. So Dark gets to do whatever he wants, and then TY kind of gets to do whatever he wants. I mean, there's going to be a lull. He's going to get to 3 bases. Once he's on 3 bases, we'll discuss what could be going wrong for our poor Terran. And I suspect what's going to be going wrong is that TY will grab a 3rd base, he'll build tanks, he'll be all la-di-da on his macro, he'll be ready to play out the macro game, of which he was at one point known very well for. And then he's going to get bopped by a 1-1 Roach all-in. I'm pretty sure that's what's gonna happen. Dark is setting up for 1-1 Roaches, and while he has, in the last month, let's say last 2 months, I feel like Dark's Roach game has been usually more Roach, Ling, Baneling, Hive based. He's not been doing the 1-1 Roach all-in. He did do it earlier this season in GSL. On this map, I believe. Versus special? I think? Yeah. So, when I'm saying, like, he might not have been doing it all the time, but he always has it as a potential, which should scare every Terran player. And he's actually been pulling the trigger on it as well, no matter the circumstances, because arguably, I argued the special could have defended it, but different game, different series, not important. What is important is if TY is even in the know. And TY's macro, by the way, is absolutely off. I know he's a bit rusty, but he is doing rather poorly on the supply blocks. One supply block earlier, now a supply block. We just heard it. I know another supply block, actually. So he's not playing his best up against one of the world's best Zergs. Very concerning for TY. Fourth TC is on the way. This is also not necessarily the damning aspect of TY's play for dealing with his aggression. But I do think that, you know, he'd rather put that resource into something else, like 3 or 4 bunkers. So when he scans the building of the Ravagers, he does cancel it. He's building a bunker, but he's going to need more than that. He's got 2 tanks sieged up, but they're hardly protected. And Dark is coming in. Not quite maxed out, but he is coming in from multiple angles. TY setup with a handful more units, a handful more structures, I think is beautiful. And you can see he's actually dealing with this surprisingly well. Because he didn't spread his units out. That's kind of what killed Special, is that he had his units all types of spread out. And here we are consolidated, and now Dark is just going to try and bust his head through the door. Which he might be able to do. But it was not so easy as just pushing the door open like it was in his last series on this map. Still very, very worried for TY, but he is doing a good job defending. Starts up 2-2, is no longer supply blocked, and might just have enough bio and medevacs to actually push this back. Another stim might be a little dangerous, though. I'm not sure about chasing the rest of this army. Yep, he's going to just chase until he has to pick up. It's exactly that. No Marauder slow is also potentially missing out some on some kills for TY. Maybe could have slowed 2 or 3 more units. Corrosive Bile is going to kill that 1 tank. No save on that one. But the Corrosive Biles, the Ravagers themselves, were in danger. They are no longer. Dark has started up 2-2 alongside a 5th base. 77 drones, but no infestation pit. So he's not moving away entirely from his mass roach Kool-Aid Man style of play. Busting through walls and screaming, oh yeah. Just kill more tanks. There you go. The Kool-Aid Man wins again. Took a little while. It was a particularly difficult wall to break, but that is going to be game. TY desperately trying to salvage the situation. Oh my god, had so much more army. Whoa, wait, if he had army actually protecting his tanks, I think he would have been fine. I don't know where the hell that army came from. But that, if that was there for the fight in the middle, that would have been fine. Kool-Aid Man? You guys don't remember Kool-Aid Man busting through walls? Literally a gigantic jug of Kool-Aid. Literally, Kool-Aid in a pitcher with a face drawn on it, wearing shorts, busts through a wall and screams, oh yeah! Yeah, TY is, like I said, pretty dead. His drop across the map is a little dangerous, but Dark still has other bases to mine from, which means he's also going to be producing from other bases. He's got his 2-2 finishing up to match TY's upgrades yet again, which were uneven for a hot second. A Dark supply is telling the tale, and TY is losing on all of his economy. He's trying to bust down to the natural, but mass transfused drone and roach armies are going to take care of this eventually. Medevacs are out of juice, so it is a matter of time. I think that TY actually had the army to deal with that, but it was entirely in the wrong position. I'm going to actually go back and check once we have the end of this game, since it is, you know, worth commentating. It's not like totally game over with the fuckman, but it's pretty over. TY definitely not to be accused of an Idra GG. Is teetering dangerously close to a fantasy one. Not quite there yet. It's hovering. I can't believe the non-Americans don't know Kool-Aid Man. Ugh, a waste of a reference. Yeah. That thing was kind of creepy, actually. I'm pretty glad it's off the airwaves. Marauder slow! That's what you need to win this game. TY is at half the supply, and while that is inflated, I would absolutely believe in the potential of the Terran if the supply consisted of 45 SCVs. And then the 40 army supply difference might not actually be all that bad. Magic of Biomedivac versus Roach Ravager. But, you know, that supply difference in the army and the severe worker difference is what makes me very, very certain that TY is dead. TY GG timing, new meme. Still not a fan of GG timing, though. It's, reasonable to stay in this. This is one of those situations in which you have probably a 10% chance to win. You would absolutely have to hope that Dark screws up. And TOI really is trying to go Super Saiyan at this moment. He's working with so little. Mules can only get you so far. As he is only on one command center. It's gotta be way less than 10. Well, it's getting... It was 10 when he had armies coming into multiple directions. Now it's 1%. And now it's 0%. He would have had to have controlled his army so perfectly that he did not lose a single unit in any of these engagements. And then Dark would have had to run face first all of his Ravagers into an army without A moving. Possible. Yeah, I don't remember where that's that timer. Why did he have such a big army? Very, very surprising. This was, I think, after it. Yeah, it was after it. Here we go. Ah, he did do it! I thought he did this. Oh! I love when pros make this mistake. And I'm still not exactly certain how. I do this as well. But at some point, you're clicking all over the place. Somehow your rally gets reset. And I actually don't know how. I've never really thought about it hard enough. I just know it happens to me, and then I have to F2. But all of these units here, if they were over here protecting those tanks, it would have been enough. Over here. There we go. Because it really was just a matter of enough buffer for his tanks not to be pounced upon. So, for instance, all of this army would have been able to punish this one and then this one much harder. So I think his tanks are probably dead no matter what, but imagine like twice the army left over as he's running back. It would have been much more difficult to call. Rally on a building or a unit which dies. Oh, that makes total sense for the pros. That makes total sense. And I guess when it happens to me, because I don't make it a habit of rallying to a supply depot like the pros do. That's what they do. And I don't intend to rally to a unit. But I think what's probably happening is that I accidentally rally to a unit or supply depot, and then it dies. That makes sense. But yeah, for the professional Terrans, they almost always rally to a supply depot at the front. And then if that does die, that would reset the rally. Good point, guys. In the top left of Gresvan, we have got Cure, who is facing this player in the bottom right, herO. I will say what I said last week when I cast Cure versus Estrella. It is very unfortunate the Protoss player matches up against Cure first. It's unfortunate if they match up against them at all, but it's extra unfortunate if it's first, because that's that confidence and momentum builder that is the first series win can mean something. Whoops, sounds are good. And you just don't get it. You go in raw, man. Against Cure in a PVT. It's not nice. It's not a good feeling. I would continue with this analogy, but I've got to keep it PG-13. So why is this such a bad idea for Protosses? So it's like not like their idea, but why is such a bad thing for Protosses? Because Kira is probably the best TVP player in StarCraft 2 right now. Not only are Protosses having a tough time and herO has a bit of an identity crisis right now, but to add on just general pure prowess in the matchup, it makes it almost impossible to beat the guy. So, I'm pretty sad already. Like, that's how much I believe in Kira's ability to win TVPs. I am already sad as we enter into the second minute of this best of 3. herO is going to lose. It's not a spoiler. I don't know the actual results. And, I didn't see anything particularly damning on the Reddit. Usually they're complaining about something, but... So I don't know anything, but... One thing I can be fairly certain of is that herO is not going to win this best of 3. herO, a year ago, or 6 months ago, I guess, would have been certainly capable of it, even though Kira has been very, very good in TVP for longer than that. But I think herO would have had a stronger identity. I think the Protoss play in general versus Terran wouldn't be as suspect. So that was still also a time of a little bit of figuring things out because of the most recent patch and whatever. Now it's so set in stone. It's so predictable. And herO as a player is having some problems, and the matchup might be having some problems, and his problem is being too freaking good at the matchup. So let's all just say our words, our kind words for herO as he is being gently laid down to rest. The casket is descending as we are speaking. I know there's a dark shrine. I know that Kira hasn't scouted it. I don't care. I'm especially depressed because I really want herO to do something. Usually I wouldn't be so melancholy about it. Okay, 2 base set up now for Kira. He did factory expand, I believe. 2 Reapers trying to harass. He is looking around for the proxy because he saw a non-researching Twilight Council, and he's very close to finding it. Here we go. It's descending. It's being laid down. Priest is doing this gesture. Yep. We're good. Well, herO's not good. herO's very good. Well, you can't blame the guy for trying. Here's TVP is pretty out of this world, but this was also a bit more evidence. I'm actually unsure. I think herO was willing to have this scouted if it still existed. I think he would have been okay, or, you know, it would have been workable if herO had the jig is up moment, but then herO still was able to produce DTs, have 1 DT at the front, you know, hold off on 2 DTs, maybe go into the main if he thinks he has an opportunity, or hold them off just to cause some scans. Like, basically, if there was anything to this is literally nothing. There's nothing to play around with this. The DTs are made back at home, but it's such a big difference when Kira takes this out prior to the DTs being warped in. There's absolutely zero concern for the Terran player. Very, very, very bad start for herO. Kira's TVZ is a little more suspect. I think TVZ for Kira is probably his worst matchup. Obviously very good, but TVP is best. TVT is good. And TVZ is a little question mark, which is why I think this might be good for Dark, who's awaiting to face the victor of this best of 3. DTs are entering to the main base thanks to a Warp Prism, and there are no units up here. No Mr. No Raven, no units. So this is a little awkward as this Raven was buying time. herO is still trying to make something happen here. Make lemonade out of lemons. He kills 6 SCVs, about to be a 7th. And it does do a little bit of distraction, but he's also losing some units, or some buildings, I should say, over on the other side of the map here. It's not that he looked totally invulnerable versus Estrella. It was a 2-0, but it was an interesting one, I would say. But it's that even when Estrella seemed to make things happen in favor of him, it still didn't matter. So, a little bit of, I guess, Kier having a bigger clutch factor, perhaps, in this matchup, as alongside everything else that he has, skill-wise. It just doesn't seem that even though herO finally gets something, we should all be cheering and being like, yeah, this is a game. It's definitely a game that's going to be really fun and really cool. It's like, well, no. And the DTs will try to do more damage, but it's probably not going to do any more damage. It's nice that they killed 7 SCVs, make that 9 in total. But... oh, I also love these repowering his gateway and his Dark Shrine. He's going to get Blink. Love if he got Blink. I don't think it would work, but I'd love it anyway. Two base Protoss versus two base Terran. Two base Terran is not threatening until they have Stim, Combat Shields, and Medivacs, but that is about 30 seconds away. Raven will be included with a lot of energy. Tank as well, just to make things difficult. And herO is trying to get some units on the front lines to cause some delays, but I don't know how much delay they're actually going to cause. If they blink into the main, I was going to say, then they're just not going to be a part of the fight, and the amount of damage they do in the main will not be similar to the amount of damage that herO will take. It's just like the Stalkers are already out of position. They do recall back home to deal with a medevac drop, but that means they're still not tracking this army, of which maybe they could grab a Marine, maybe a Viking, maybe a medevac, maybe a Marauder. Their main army does try and get up on that high ground, which is the best possible situation. Interference Matrix looking to be baited out. Kier actually very much on the trigger discipline here. Didn't pop the Interference Matrix. A lot of other Terrans would have. Two medevacs flying to the main base. There is a vulnerability there. Shield Battery and a couple of Stalkers will not do the trick. Colossus comes up, but that's also not that strong. It's a little bit vulnerable. 13 probes go down in the blink of an eye as they try to buffer for the Stalkers. Buy time for the Colossus to get over here to help out. But without that range addition, the Colossus took its sweet, sweet time. And Kier does evacuate with at least one medevac. Not very much in it, but the rest of the army that was stalled out on the would-be 4th base is also able to evacuate. So just straight up Kier kills 23 probes, worth the loss of army. And herO has done nothing in return. Kier playing a bit conservatively, I would suspect, as well, knowing DTs could try and cause some weird base trade scenario. Just caught one right there. Had a lot of army back at home that could have been out on the map a bit faster. I think he would have done that if it wasn't for the DTs. But at the end of the day, this just means that his army that is available is quite large. So as herO goes for the counterattacks to try and get some push going on here, it's not all that strong. Good concave of upgraded bio. 1-1 for a while now. Medevac's full of juice, and the Colossus still without their extended thermal range. Just doesn't have a lot of potential. Protoss has to do this. The Protoss wants to do this. And for herO, the best thing that could come out of this is that he buys time. So he's playing it absolutely correctly, just in such an abysmal situation. Kier's getting his Vikings and his Ghosts, which will complete his army. The amount of Marauders he has is already rather intimidating. He's going to finally clear up all of these structures for good. This will mean herO will get the time to get into a couple of Disruptors, which is quite threatening to some worse TDP players. To Kier, he won't mind one Disruptor or 2 or even 3. If this game goes on long enough that herO gets to 4 or 5, I'll start to cheer again. I'll start to be happy again. I'll call him Zombie herO, and he'll be out and about looking for brains to chew on. But we're not there yet. As far as I'm concerned, he's banging on the casket door, and everyone's just pretending not to hear him. Like, what? It is pretty freaking cool. Did I just hear wolves? What the hell? I turned on ambient effects for the first time in years. And I've been noticing it more and more. Anyway, Kira has recovered on his economy a little bit from the earlier probe loss, but that was supposed to be 4th base, saturated, in the 23 whatever probes that he got killed. He's still on 3, gonna lose more probes, possibly a Nexus, possibly 2 Nexus actually. As herO's only responding with pure Stalker, it's not gonna kill the bio fast enough, even when it jumps on top of the bio. They will lose some Stalker lives. That's 1 Nexus down, other one not gonna be taken down, not yet anyways. The priority is taken on the main army. Colossus, Immortal, and Disruptors tried to take down Kira's 50% of Kira's army, and it was unsuccessful. And that Nexus is also a goner. Kira will get that game number 1. Finally, the dirt gets piled on, and herO is definitely dead for this game. Perhaps he'll come back to life in the second. In the top left of Dragon Scales for game number 2, we got Cure. In the bottom right, we do have herO. I realize my job as a commentator is to excite the public and to accurately detail what is happening, but again, the overall depression I have from watching one of my favorite Protoss players, general players, just get wailed on is it's hard to overcome, you know. I tear up for a second. It's not even just that like I saw him get walloped. It's like it's like an 8-year-old, you know, goes into the boxing ring against, you know, like a 240-pound boxer, and even before the actual walloping begins, I know that this guy is gonna get killed. This kid's killed. Yeah. So that's where I'm at. Very depressing. Not a happy thing to look at. No one's excited about this. But it is what it is. It has to be played out, and someone did have to face Cure. I actually think TY versus Cure would be a very interesting matchup. I said it last week and the week before that and week before that. I don't think there's a super wide skill gap along the 16 GSL players, in that I think that it is possible for all of the GSL round 16 players to beat each other. I think it's possible, just not likely. But when it comes specifically to Cure's TVP and the current state and Cure's skill level with it, that is the most imbalanced I'll say anything is in the round of 16 GSL. Otherwise, you know, even such things like a Dark versus Estrella, if that had happened, I still would have been pretty excited to see what Estrella could bring to the table. Just this one, this one is like watching like a typical old school round of 32 or even round of 64 match from years ago in GSL, where it was clearly some guy who just showed up to the qualifier versus like innovation, you know, and you're just like, oh, well, like that might be a little dramatic. That might be a little bit of exaggeration, but herO just has such a tough time. Facing Dark first would have been so much cooler. Facing TY first, I think, would have been cooler. But herO versus Cure is just the most uncool matchup we're gonna have. Even if herO does try to make it cool, because herO tries a DT rush or something. Yeah. But back to the game. Back to what's actually happening. Adept's gonna try and race across the map to do something. It's gonna actually try and catch the Reaper going up the ramp, but Cure knew it. Knew it was gonna happen. Waited for a second Reaper. Now has the Hellion. One Reaper will die. Second one will not. Did actually. Not a bad Adept against a factory opener, actually. Could have been way worse. I've definitely seen the same situation end up with the Adept dead and all 3 Terran units alive. Command Center is going to be delayed, so there's some good news to herO. One Hellion should not do any damage. It is going to get the Scout, which it wanted to do. The Reaper had already scouted the existence of the Stargates. The Hellion gets to scout what is popping out of the Stargate, and seeing as it is a Phoenix, it pretty much confirms it will be Phoenix. Not an Oracle into a Twilight Council. It'll be 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4. And what beyond that will it be? Looks like it's going to be Phoenix Colossus, which is more the standard nowadays. I think we saw a Phoenix charge in Group A once. I don't remember what it was. And I don't remember if it was effective either. I don't think it was. A Phoenix Colossus, a very defensive style of play that I guess can turn offensive. You know, initially the Phoenix helped guard against the Wood of Mine drop. The Colossus helped guard 2 bases. There's a slow turnaround to a 3-base setup. But then the Phoenix can go out on the map and can get harassment done, and we could even have Phoenix Colossus on the attack, an actual attack. Pretty bold of Cure to go for his Cyclone Marine drop up against someone he knew was going into Adept Phoenix. Everything would have had to have gone according to plan for Cure to make this work out, which the plan was for herO not to respond as quickly. Now, herO did respond quickly, did take that first Cyclone, not out of the equation, that actually still lives, but was on top of the first Cyclone, still alive. And then he maybe just over-dedicated. Cure able to rally his units forth. Sans a medevac, that's what died, that's what it was, okay. Actually gets to do something here. The medevac dying, the one Cyclone dying, the other Cyclone dying, that could have been rallying into death in a different situation. And now it's just correct. Now he just, you know, obviously that worked out for Cure, and he's in total and complete control, and once again, very sad for herO. He has to rebuild his Subnex Core as he rebuilds, or he first builds his robotics bay. And Cure, he does spend a decent amount of time producing these Cyclones and Vikings and not producing bio, stim, and combat shields, but it's obviously working, so it's actually going to win the game. Wow. A single chance. It's like herO actually busted out of the casket for a second chance at life, and someone whacked him with a shovel, and he's just back in there. Yep. It's actually a very funny scene in a Korean movie called My Sassy Girl that happens. As we watch herO die, as he is dying. 12 probes killed, no third nexus started, robotics bay is done. He could build a Colossus, so maybe he's not completely dead yet, but he's not in a good position. Down 9 workers in a TVP. The only thing he has going for him is that Cure does not have an immediate follow-up, so a little bit of time to recover. Maybe a counterattack? Okay, the scene in this movie called My Sassy Girl is like this chick is, she's sassy. But she's saying how she doesn't agree with the ending of a very popular Korean novel, I think. Where the girlfriend dies, and then the boyfriend is like really sad, and she's like, I don't like that ending. Here's how it should end. And then she imagines a scenario in which the girlfriend dies, and then the boyfriend is seen being taken to her grave because her last request was to be buried with her sweetheart. So they literally throw a very alive person into the grave, and he tries to escape, and they whack him with a shovel, and you just hear him crying as they start putting the dirt over him. That's the situation here. herO is basically dead. Now, not quite that bad, but it is bad as Cure is sizing up for his push. He is doing so patiently. He's getting a third command center first. Stim, combat shields, 1-1. Everything's going to be coming in later, but when it does come, it's going to be sizable. It's going to be very, very dangerous. Thank you, Barrett, for the 50 months. It's half of 100. It's true. Whoops, I definitely pressed the wrong button there. Hopefully I didn't break anything. Does everyone deep into StarCraft end up in K-drama sooner or later? Well, that has very little to do with me being in StarCraft. I mean, StarCraft helped me get familiar with Korea in general, but I would say most of the people that I actually hung out with who introduced me to, for instance, Korean barbecue, have no interest in K-dramas whatsoever. All right, an attack from herO is a good idea. Once again, he did this in the last game or something similar to it, in which the idea is really not bad at all. His supplies also look quite good for herO's chances, but just 2 tanks is enough to actually stop this from really being all that intimidating. And the 2 tanks are rather crucial. Without 2 tanks here, there's a lot more playroom for herO. He can just run around and really cause problems. But 2 tanks is enough. The Colossus can't kill that fast enough. The Immortal can't get in range before it dies. and there was hardly any other army to speak of. Cure also going for an immediate pickup on his medevacs, was hoping to go unscouted. Phoenix actually find it, but then hero doesn't pay attention. No, the Phoenix! Oh, they probably could have killed a medevac before the full unload happens, but yeah, he just did not see that. Cyclone's in a bit of a distraction over the right side. 5 probes lose their lives. The drop wasn't super effective, and it could be chased down. Nexus gets canceled. Phoenix don't want to engage with that many Marines looking to target fire them. So this drop might actually be able to recover. It might be able to come on home. There we go. A little bit far. The target fire does lose the Marauders. Hero gets a little bit of a clapback. 3 base setup. Colossus available. 3 of them. Xanthermal Lance on their way. And a Disruptor just popped. Some high-quality units, but not a lot of them. And 0 upgrades. This Kier is done with 1-1. He's now working his way to Ghosts. Does not have 2-2 yet. 4th base is on the way. And Kier is going to play out a much longer TVP. It looked like his attack in the natural was going to win, but hero did a fine job trying to roll out of that one, make it look elegant. Which, really, hero is still a very top-tier Protoss player, despite my pessimism in this matchup. In this particular Cure versus hero. So that would be such a thing we would expect from one of the great Protoss players. He needs more than that. He needs a substantial victory in one of these fights. I don't really believe. Fourth Nex is going to be canceled. Oh, so close to completion. No, why would you not cancel that? Oh no, hero, your army was not close enough whatsoever, and if the idea is to bait the army to stay around for too long, that also did not work. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Hero was partially distracted, but that was really not the issue. He knew this attack was on the way, he had his units in position, and then Kira didn't actually pull the trigger on anything. Okay, suddenly every Terran unit going down. But Kira has the second attack still ready to go. Gonna grab another Nexus by the looks of things. Shield Battery trying to save the day, but it will not be able to save the day! Lordy. Did he already use Overcharge? Didn't have the energy for it? Very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. 2 Nexus killed and not quite the same rebuttal. Not quite the same damage taken by Kier's army. Because if Kier had lost, let's say, 40 army supply and is now below by 20, then Hero has a real opportunity for a counterattack, and that might have been worth it. But Kier didn't lose enough army for that to be a worthwhile sacrifice. Kier is on 4 bases. His 4th is going to have to be lifted. But he has a solid setup to defend Heroes almost all in. If this does not work, he could be chased down and destroyed. He still is down in upgrades. EMPs have blanketed most of his army. Phoenix gonna fall over a Widow Mine! Oh, they are alive, but injured and without any type of help, really. They can't even tackle these medevacs. The Colossus are without help. Well, that's gonna be it for the army. The Colossus left alone are much worse at retreating than the Phoenix. The Phoenix aren't retreating, they're trying to find whatever damage they can, but again, they're EMP'd, so how many lifts do they even have? They're trying to find a couple of starport units popping out and killing them for free. It's not exactly for free, as a missile turret also helps to further damage them. 4th base was lifted easy peasy, now back on location, turning into a planetary 70 supply difference between the two, as Kira also finished up his 2-2 upgrades against Hero's simple +1. Widowmine drop, killing probes, distracting mining, zealot run-bys, not working out. Everything has gone to shit. And Cure does win game number 2. A 13-minute game, though, that really had some potential, despite the way the opener looked. But at the end of the day, that is Cure. Like I said, it's not even that he makes the Protosses look like complete and utter fools every time. It's that even when the Protoss seems to be coming back or seems to have a good chance in the game, Cure then makes the ending look as if they never did. Like, maybe the journey is somewhat interesting, but the destination is always the same. Cure always wins. It's almost getting to the levels of when herO was winning everything, and you're just kind of like, well, this story's getting old. The writers need to come up with something new. Writers need to come up with something new for Kira's TVP. But yeah, GG's to him. Still a beast in the matchup. He moves on to face Dark in the winners match, and herO will face TY in the losers, and I think that'll be a much more interesting TVP. We are now in the winners match of the GSL Round of 8 Group B. In the top left, we do have Cure. In the bottom right, it is Dark. So, last series, frankly, pretty skippable. If you skipped it, you probably made the right choice. As much as I would have loved herO to have done something rather interesting, and while the games themselves weren't completely one-sided, the end result, again, was almost predetermined. For these next matches, Cure Dark and herO TY, I would say they should be very, very close. And then the final match should also be very close. Although... no, there's actually a pretty big potential that's going to be herO versus Cure again. Because actually, looking at this match, this best of 3, I do favor Dark. And then thinking of the lower bracket match, I do still favor herO, even though he's been struggling a little bit. I think TY is just too out of full-time pro gaming to be supposed to win that. Not that he can't win that, he absolutely could. But yeah. But TVZ, I'd always thought of as Cure's weakest matchup, especially as his TVP kind of almost flew under the radar for a little bit as being almost perfect. And then people were like, oh, look at this. And then his TVT has always been a highlight because he has been one of the few who could tackle Maru in a late-game TVT. Not that he won, just he could do stuff. So, TVZ has always been a bit of a sore point, and I have not been very impressed in his matchups on this map against other Zerg players. But then he did play in his round of 16 group, and I was completely wrong. He actually very much impressed me. Apparently, it was a Cure of old. I believe he was facing Solar. And I was like, I just don't know about the TVZ here from Cure. Like, and he actually did fine. So I have newfound respect for Cure's TVZ. He did a much better job of mixing things up than what he was doing 6 months ago. So definitely a bit of history there. Not super important right here, right now. But 6 months ago was a bit boring. It was humdrum. It was uninspired. It was almost like a mere bad copy of some of the other best Terrans as he tried to establish a late-game superiority back before the Terrans had really figured things out and the Zergs had figured things out. I mean, it was a slightly different meta, basically, back then. And now, Cure does occasionally play into the late game, but I would say his openers have diversified, which they were very diverse in this matchup, I want to say, like a year ago. So it's been kind of, all up and down, all over the place for Cure. So he actually was doing a lot of 4-Raxes like a year ago. And then he stopped. And then he did them again versus Solar. And now he's doing a more Byun build, what we identify with Byun at this point, which is the 2-Rax opener, which can lead into a 4-Rax or a 3rd CC or 1 or 2-on-1, I guess. What have you. The hatchery is awfully low. I did not realize how far along the hatchery was for the health that it had. That's pretty crazy. Those Reapers got a decent amount of time in that hatchery. It's going to finish at about a quarter health. And maybe be in trouble if this was some Hellion opener or even a fast Marine opener. I mean, if this was a 4-Rax, I think they just dive on top of the hatchery. It's not, though. It's a 3cc, which means that there's really no danger for the hatchery anytime soon. It might still be injured by the time medevacs start flying around, but much healthier. Cure's Reapers certainly are a bother. They've even delayed Dark's creep spread, although he is now on a good queen count, so it'll be temporary. But then Dark really has to wonder what is happening beyond this. So far it's been all about defending the Reapers, no scouting this side of the map. Of course, they're going into a 2-barrack setup, and he did at least see the stim, which is probably actually happening. But he has no idea what the follow-up to that is, so 3cc, more barracks, 2-on-1. When do the medevacs show up? Basically the most important question to ask yourself. as the Zerg player. Since Banshees, I mean, they could happen, I suppose, but the Banshees at the very least wouldn't be lethal. They're more harassment. It's the Medivacs and Marines that could be lethal. So you want to be checking that one out. And Dark just simply can't know. You know, as it reaches over into the 5 to 5:30, I believe, 5:30, he might realize that it's not a 2-on-1 follow-up. This is an interesting amount of lings. It's gonna build 36 lings. Again, he doesn't know what's actually happening. So that might just be... What? He's building more. No, is he gonna bust? What is he gonna do? I don't actually know what he's trying to do here. He's maybe hoping the Marines will step out. If this is a multiple barracks follow-up, maybe he's waiting for the Marines to step out. Maybe he's hoping the supply depot will be lowered just because, like, you know, the game's going to continue on, and then is hoping to catch Cure not paying attention. Maybe he's... I mean, he's certainly checking the amount of Marines. That much is obvious. The Lings will see, oh, it's 6 Marines. Oh, it's 8 Marines. That's not 20. I guess I'm okay. But otherwise, those Lings dipping back and forth. Could have also been scouting for upgrade timings, for shields, for 1-1. There's a lot of Lings to do that. Which are now, of course, going to be used defensively, but in the typical Zerg fashion, you went drones first, army later, so it just is a little out of order, is what it felt like. Kier was stuck a little bit more on 2 bases while that happened. He did have to respect the number of Lings, so there's also that. So his 3rd CC, I think, was done for a while, and only just now planted over. But then again, didn't really have too many SCVs to send, so it's not the worst economic loss. 1-1 is done, and I think Dark might have been able to spot that, which means 2-2 is already on the way, and Dark's 1-1 has only just recently started. So that sounds pretty bad. Aspire is on the way. We've been seeing Lambo experiment with this on this map. So far, I have not seen it succeed. If I was going to guess a Zerg player of Korea was going to try this, I would have not guessed Dark. I might have guessed Ragnarok, who's not in the GSL anymore, but yeah, I would not have expected Dark to try it. But Dark is going to try and go into mutas. It's not the fastest mutas, clearly. It's more of a macro muta, but still. Interesting. The double Marine drop finally appearing around 7 minutes. Again, not the most aggressive follow-up there from Cure. Plenty of army back home. Even the Reapers themselves apparently could have taken care of those Banelings. The giant wall is set down, so they're not going to be able to break open it easily. We need 6 Banelings, some more. Hellbats are also already on the way. Okay, so they both are doing something different in the mid-game. So the mutas are, you know, old school. We could talk a lot about what they used to do in this situation. You guys probably are familiar with it, although maybe not. Mutas have not been part of the TVZ meta for a very long time now. But then maybe you're not familiar with previous attempts to go into Hellbats instead of Widow Mines. And I will tell you that there was a period of time in which some Terran players are trying this. One of those players being Flash. So that gives you a time frame. Many years ago. And it wasn't good. But I will explain why in a second. Here, more importantly, much more to the point, has gone 8 racks, mass bio, 1 factory. So he is arriving with a shit ton of bio. And that means that Dark would like a shit ton of Ling Baneling, which he does not have as of yet. He wasted, basically, 10 mutas worth of resources that have yet to do anything. As the Banelings roll on through, we got some splits somewhat on creep, but the amount of bio is just insane. Marauders appropriately taking on the front, Marines appropriately splitting on the backside, and this is the push to win the game. 9 SCVs is not going to make up for Dark's loss of his natural, his reinforcements, his spire, his Baneling nest, his everything. Damn. I am a little concerned, however, by Cure's lack of Marines. I actually thought he would have 10 plus Marines already ready, but they are not ready to tackle the mutas, so it's a little weird back at home, but still not weird enough. Lots of bio still left over. Baneling's not even trying to connect with the army as they roll on past. I guess they're trying to group together, but Dark knows that it is, in fact, game over. Despite the mutas doing more damage than I thought they would. I thought Cure would easily get 10 more Marines somewhere. But did not. But yeah, the mutas, I still want to see them work. That was another example of them not working. But the Hellbats, they are basically redundant is the best way I can put it. They are a little tankier. Well, they're tankier than Marines. And they technically have splash. And they do wonderfully against Lings. They don't really add a lot versus Banelings. And Banelings are often the focus anyway. So that's why, I mean, when I say they're redundant, they die alongside the Marines. Rather than having any amount of support for them. You know, Widowmines, you fall back behind them. They pop off. Tanks, you fall back to them. They're shooting the entire time. Hellbats are almost like Marines. So, not exactly, but as far as that mid-game context goes. Because we used to see Flash try and do, like, 12 to 18 Hellbats. Like, he built 2 factories just to produce Hellbats and use them as his splash. And I'm saying it looked bad as if it never even got close to winning. That's not true. Like, it was a mass bio, basically, type of battle, but it definitely didn't stick. No one believes in Hellbats being the factor unit of choice in this matchup. But interesting, nonetheless, that Curious had to add those in instead of a couple of Widowmines. But like I said, the focus, the more important thing, was that Cure was going mass bio. Which worked, clearly. Let's get into game number 2. In the top right, up a game, he is Cure. In the bottom left, we have Dark. We really had some trouble in that game. First, the Reapers doing an obnoxious amount of damage. Probably overall not very important, but just mentally was a bit bothersome. Then the Lings that Dark produced. I would need to hear his reasoning for that. Because I gave a lot of reasons. I gave enough credit to the Lings and what they were doing, but to me, that still didn't make up for the fact that they were made. You know? 30 Lings beep-bopping around walls, Cure's wall. Did all the things I said. They scouted for the upgrades, they scouted for the combat shields, they scouted the number of Marines, they scouted the 3rd CC timing, they scared Cure into staying behind his wall. They did all of those things. But does that really make up for the fact that there was 30 Lings instead of 15 drones when there absolutely could have been 15 drones? No. So my best guess is that Dark really just had no idea what was on the way. So if you have 0 idea, then you produce some Lings and you start tracking their army movements and their army type, if possible. But that does mean you built army before drones, and that's just not the Zerg ideal. So it's an understandable thing, but I think that really did hurt Dark's flow as a Zerg player. And then whether or not he went mutas is probably not something I can really judge, I guess. Because he chose it when he did, before he knew that Cure was going into an 8-racks. He did go mutas, I think, once he figured it wasn't a 2-base follow-up. But he had no idea that Cure was going into an 8-racks. 1 factory, not, you know, 4th CC somewhere, 2 factories. So that's just unfortunate. So Dark just had a very abysmal game number 1. Circumstances not ending in his favor. I don't think that was truly representative of their overall series or how they're going to pair up against each other. I think that Dark still has a very solid chance of winning the series overall. Here has once again opened up with the 2 racks. So the Reapers are being a bother. Good micro on them as well. They should never kill a queen at this level, but if they did, that would be freaking amazing. And I do think their damage is better put on a queen as opposed to that hatchery, as low as it got. And as close as that was to death, it still wasn't really close in the context of 3 Reapers and their shots. 25% health in a hatchery. It's still a lot for 3 Reapers to kill. So trying to kill a Queen's a little more reasonable. Might actually happen. This one's awfully close. Ling speed still isn't done. It's actually very, very late. Going for the more macro opener. Which is actually a real opposite, unless I totally missed out on the opener. Which is fair, I could have. I don't know what timing he got his pool and his Queens. But I was going to say, Solar has, did and is still doing the earlier Queen build. But not just against the 2-Rax openers, also against regular Terrans. Regular Terrans. So, I don't think that was what Dark opened up with. Seems to be a Solar special right now to consistently do it. But yeah, Dark definitely got for a, for a later speed, as he doesn't really need it against the 3 Reaper opener. Queens will do the job. Fairly quick Overlord speed. Looks like Dark might have been... might be cognizant of the problem of the last game, or one of the problems of the last game, which was the unnecessary Ling timing, and then the Mutas trying to run into someone who's 3 base attacking you on 8 racks. Like, that's just 2 very unideal situations. So, it looks to me like Dark is really quite... not hung up, but he's thinking about that last game and saying, well, this would just solve all my problems, wouldn't it? And it will, as far as the scouting goes. The scout will be able to see the 3cc Banshee build that is actually following this up. In time? Yeah, here comes an Overlord now. There you go. And it's less about his ability to defend the Banshees and more about his ability to now read into when he can drone versus when he can make army. So if he can drone now, knowing that there's not an immediate 2 medevac follow-up, then that's much better than the last game in which he made 36 Lings, I believe, or 34, I think it was. Just 7 more larvae. Not in your drones. Evolution chambers might also be faster. Those upgrades were insanely different in the last game. Like, crazy different. And Dark does seem to be, well, much better set up in game number 2 than number 1. The 2 Banshees warded away a little bit of a Ling run by, and now we'll be maybe arriving onto the 4th base. Dark realizes maybe there's a weakness to that. Could move his Queens over. When necessary, upgrade so much closer together. Good lord. Last game really was crazy. An upgrade and a quarter difference. Crazy. And, yep, there's the barracks coming down now, so... Still not on combat shield, still not on medevacs, but he will have, well, if he starts up a second medevac, he will have enough Marines to place in them and start his drop process. The 2 Banshees skipped right over that 4th base, entered into the main, of which there are Queens and an Overseer, so really not much more damage to be done. Dark's 4th is going to finish up, his 5th is also going to finish up at the same time, so he's able to expand it. And his creep spread is looking strong. He's got Overlord drops on the way. Ooh, 2 Overlord drops. 4 Banelings on the right, 4 Banelings on the left. Felt like for a month people were doing this every single freaking game, and then everyone stopped. And I'm glad to see Dark coming back to it. Now, this might not be the most effective Baneling drop. If Kira is not doing anything else, then it's all too easy for him to be paying attention back at home. But if he's microing his Banshees, if he's moving out with his army, then those Baneling drops could be insanely effective. 4 Banelings on top of both mineral lines. So far, Kira's not paying attention. He doesn't actually realize he is going to get dropped in his mineral lines. And that's going to be a fair few SCVs. 15 so far, 16 to wrap it all up. Kira's economy taking a huge hit. He is setting up on his offense, but that's not really something that's all too difficult for Dark to hold against. He's not going to be able to squash it, but it's not going to kill an important base. It might not even kill this base. But if it does kill this one, there is another 4th, sorry, over to the right. The more Baneling drops are being set up too. Love it. Dark does sacrifice this base, realizing that the necessity to save it is just not there. So he can just buy time, and there's no way that Kira is going to advance his position, do a lot more damage anytime soon, because there's so much creep spread. So, well, I guess he could drop into the main base. Something that Dark is also now realizing, and that's exactly what Kira is going to do. So, okay, there is a little bit of spice. I was thinking of Kira going down the old typical path on the ground, but no, a drop in the main is rather spicy. Dark is forced to respond to that. Nonetheless, still getting the micro of the drop set up, and he's got Lings this time with Banelings to kill all of the injured SCVs. Some Banelings getting connections is good enough. Once again, even though this is a bit spicier, the actual units under attack, structures under attack are minimal. And we even had the tank die as Kira was trying to retreat. Banelings in the third base explode, kill 6 more SCVs. Banelings still have yet to go into the main. It's actually just the Lings in the main. A couple of Marines to stop it is an excellent maneuver from Kira. Easy on the defense now that he knows what is happening. But that was a good amount of damage. And Dark is not done quite yet with the Overlord drops. Dark supply really looking quite nice because he's also heading over into a hive. Well, not quite yet, but he's heading there. He's got Ling Baneling Hydra as well, a decent number of Hydras too. And the upgrades... Oh, no, we missed the attack upgrade. I was going to say the upgrades are looking much better time, but he did miss the attack upgrade. Thank you, Trollbat, for the Prime sub. Creep spread is still looking good. The left side was cleared up to open up the opportunity to hit that 5th base, but the rest of the map is being covered in purple gook. I don't know what you call it. Purple... Play-Doh? Purple... gross stuff? Yeah, purple gross stuff. 3 spore crawlers in the main. I love it. Because that is still a vulnerable area. He has very little scouting and he has very little pressure. Gak? What was Gak? Was that the Nickelodeon thing? The slime was the Nickelodeon thing. What was Gak? Purple slug? It's a good one. It's good words. Oh, Gak was what they called the slime stuff. Okay. Thank you, Land Cow, for the 8 months. So things have really settled up here. Kira took a lot of damage to the Baneling drops, but not game-ending damage, right? He didn't get overwhelmed elsewhere. He did probably have to press pause on his attacks a little bit more to recover his economic situation, which gave Dark more breathing room, thus leading to an unideal game for Kira. But again, Kira didn't die, so he's getting maxed out. He's got 4 bases, he's got 3-3 on the way, and Dark absolutely still needs to worry about a late game Terran player who is getting set up into the late game maybe a little bit faster. Dark's hive... Oh, no, his hive is done. I thought his infestation bit just finished. I'm completely out of time now. 3-3 has started up here, as well as that +1 missile. Oh, I'm sorry. That's 3-2 and +1 missile and a Juno Glance. Just saw a bunch of upgrades. I saw a bunch of red upgrades and just assumed. As well as Burrow, which I love. Dark does like to use his infestors a little more than some other Zerg players. The Zerg swarm is here, and Kira was not expecting that. So many of his tanks unsieged. Even though he will hold on to the high ground due to his amount of bio left over, the loss of the tanks is a big deal. That was a little too easy for Dark to grab. Kira just was not expecting the Zerg to go all offensive. Thought he was safe sieging up where he was. Kira's 4th base set up as a planetary. He is good to focus on the attack now, but it was that one brief moment that Dark took advantage of, and now Dark has still enough army to defend his 6th base. I can't count today. He has 5th base, 6th is his gold, and he will have Vipers very, very soon. Dark has plenty of bank, and will continue to grow a bank even as this hatchery is under attack. And the Lings coming in on the right side will distract some of the tank fire, meaning that Dark can make some connections on the ramp itself. 3-3 is dangerously close to completion. About 25 seconds to go on that one. Kira continuing to pressure this base as Dark now forced to pull everything this way. I think some Lings regarding the potential gold base. Vipers finally coming to action. Parasitic Bomb on top of a lot of clumped up medevacs. And Kira is forced to retreat even further, leaving his tanks a little bit vulnerable. Blinding Cloud affecting some of that bio fight, but Dark is the one who eventually has to back away, has to wait for more Banelings, and Kira will not be able to find a little momentum there. Some Banelings were still left over. Lots of Ling Hydra. And the Banelings here are going to form. As Dark sends his Lings over to the right side, he shift cues them to go for some harassment on the third base. Here, not able to take advantage of the momentary lack of Banelings. Did not realize there was a lack of Lings and had no defenses up on his third base. Orbital is going to have to lift. SCVs were pulled very successfully. But the Orbital definitely has to lift. Crackling's hell of a drug, but Cure absolutely should have lifted that one. Supply blocked as well. He is focused purely on the offense, but it is not going as well as it needs to. Vipers once again in the action. Blinding Cloud atop the tanks. Banelings allowed through by the Hydras. And Cure, his supply doesn't look terrible. His overall situation is getting more and more suspect. His third CC has yet to land. The SCVs went back to mining to the Cracklings, killing every single one of them. The medevac count also now in danger. Most of them out of juice anyway. And while the Baneling count is still a little bit lower than comfortable, the amount of reinforcements coming after for Dark does seem to do the trick. Hydra's actually taking down the rest of the army. Good enough. Here should not tap out. He does have a third base being rebuilt, I guess. Fourth as well. So he's going to be on 4 bases again, soon to be 5 again. And that's fine. But trying to play the late game from this position is going to be a hell of a task. It's a very much an uphill climb for Cure at this point. His pressure applied is quite low, I think, with all that's happened. And you can't not pressure. As soon as he doesn't pressure, Dark maxes out and then overwhelms him with his supply. I like Purple Ooze. I like that one. Feeling this should make a peanut butter called Creep Spread. Are you sure that shouldn't be jam? Maybe jam would make more sense. Blinding Clouds once again affecting the battle. Cure has an even army supply, but it hardly looks like it. Where are his reinforcements? Oh no! How long has this been going on? No! Supply depot, you devil. Pain. Pain. Pain! Disappointment! Alright, that's still not figured out, by the way. He's got a 6th tank about to pop. And they're all stuck. God, how does he not look back home? My goodness. Seeing we'll have to give it 23 months. It's like, my supplies don't feel that bad. What's happening? Oh, he finally realized it. But guaranteed, those tanks would have been more useful in some of the earlier battles. Better late than never. Ay, ay, ay. Oh! Medevac. Kira is starting to bring his supply back. It was an uphill climb. I absolutely still feel like I'm right about that one, but he's done it. Dark not feeling super confident to actually move out and start to tackle him off of creep. Still clearing up some of these drops. Oh, speaking of drops, Parasitic Bomb gonna be able to take down all of these medevacs. 8 Overlords on the way. 4 on the right. And where are the other ones? Ah, they're all on the right. 8 Overlords. Gonna go for a Doom Drop into the Terran's base. He's going to take the Terran's face and push it into the Doom Drop and be like, how do you like it? Huh? Huh? Probably expecting the Terran player to be very disgruntled, but actually I feel like the Terran player might not be that concerned. Doom Drops just don't have the same effect as the Terran. But nonetheless annoying. Here he's going to go respond as calmly as possible. He's leaving his tanks a little vulnerable though, and that's exactly what Dark was hoping. The tank number might be impressive now that it's all together, but it still needs something to help against pure Ling. So many tanks getting taken down. A worthwhile distraction, I would say, with the Overlord drop. Although it did only kill 11 SCVs and I guess the add-ons by the looks of it. Maybe a barracks as well. Freaking A, cracklings, man. You know, that wasn't actually the biggest deal. It was absolutely the distraction that led to the killing of, I want to say, 3 or 4 tanks on the front lines. That's actually exactly where Hellbats are useful in the late game, by the way. Hellbats are slow as tanks, so they might as well not go with the rest of the army to deal with distractions. They might as well just leave them here. and then they help out against that exact problem. So Cure probably would have already been on one of the more ideal late game Terran versus Zerg compositions if it wasn't for all the hubbub in the mid game. So the run by and the tank problem and so on. And Baneling drops as well. But he's not at the perfect composition. He's missing those Hellbats, and I think they would have absolutely helped. I still think they would help if we were talking about Supreme late game TVZ. But he just cannot get there. Funnily enough, they would also be a bit better use of his mineral versus gas situation. I mean, Marines are good, of course. Get Marines if you can. But if he had to spend his money on something and he couldn't spend anything high technology-wise, a Hellbat might be a good idea. No Blue Flame, though, so they're only so effective, but you can see that Dark has really run away with this game. Took out the top left base, kept the third base off of mining. This fourth base is a goner. This fourth base is a goner. Main base still isn't fully recovered from the Ling drop, and 48 SCVs have died. Dark, when he pulled the trigger, he pulled it pretty seriously, man. He thought he pulled a handgun trigger, and it was a submachine gun trigger. Suddenly, everything that Kira had, all dead and gone, and now he's going all in. The army supplies look like they're similar enough to warrant some hype. We know how this goes. This desperate Terran all in. Doesn't work out. GG. In the bottom right of Neo-Humanity, we do have Cure. And in the top left, it is Dark. I love Dark bringing out some cool, almost old-school tactics, basically showing us a couple of old fads in the matchup. You could call them that, I guess. Mutas were not so much a fad as they are just old school, but yeah, he showed us mutas. People, I guess, some people are trying to bring back, which I'm all for. He showed us Baneling drops, which again, it felt like for about a month, everyone did them. And then they stuck around in the ZVP matchup for a little longer than that. But eventually, we just kind of forgot that that was a thing. We just like, you know, we know it's possible, but for a while there, the Baneling drops on either Protoss base was the go-to strategy. And then it's like people forgot. And then he showed us a Mass Overlord drop into the main. And while that was purely based on Lings, I am recalling some Dark games in which he mass doom dropped Protoss, actually. Very, very old school games. But yeah, it's pretty cool. He's mixing in all of the accessory strategies, is that a good phrase for it? That we've seen over the years. Just want to throw you a prime sub the show. Appreciating all the work over the years. Have a great cast. Thank you, Landcow. Much appreciated. Yeah, he has gone for the regular Zerg opener, by the way. I was trying to pay attention this time around because I was not going to fall behind on a meta change if I could help it. And it does seem like Solar's insistence on the, what is it? It's like a 15-15 or something like that. It is just a Solar thing and an Eric thing, I suppose. Yeah, gas cancel pull hatch. Like, it just... And I still don't... you gotta ask Solar. You know, you just gotta ask Solar. Unfortunately, you can, because he speaks pretty good English, but... Solar is doing it not just against the 2-Rax Reaper openers, which, by the way, Kira is not doing this time around. But he's also doing it against more typical Terran players, so it's all well and good doing it against Bjorn, because you think the... you feel that the faster Queen helps you against the Reaper harassment, but he was doing it against, like, Gumiho, which, you know, Gumiho doesn't do that opener so often. He was doing it against another Terran, I forget. Not Maru, because Maru does that Rax opener as well. He was doing something else. Like, it just... I was wondering what Solar was thinking against the more typical openers. And I wasn't exactly sure it was all that helpful against the 2-Rax opener anyway, but that's not my place to say. Solar would be the one leading the meta change, not moi. So, like I said, gotta ask him. Look at the balls on this kid. My goodness. A third CC on location against a Zerg. What he's picked up on is perhaps that later speed. So, of course, you want to make sure that he's not cheesing you, because Dark could change over into a super aggressive, cheesy Zerg. A drop of a hat. But assuming that doesn't happen, they haven't gone pool first, then perhaps Cure figures it will be a 3-hatch slow speed build, which is what Dark was doing last game, and I pointed that out. So, you know, 8 lings, slow lings, might still be a real bother, because the Reaper would have to come back and be like, I gotta shoot you guys, like, fuck off. But, you know, it's less impactful than if they had speed. And by the looks of it, this command center would have been in a dangerous timing zone for a, like, I wouldn't call it a typical speed, but it's really not anymore. The, like, instantly get 100 gas and put it right into metabolic boost. But it would have been a little suspect against some of the faster speeds. Best way to put it. And Cure figured correctly. If it wasn't a pool first, then it was a later speed. His command center could be on location, and worst case scenario at that point is that he has to lift it. And he loses, you know, 2 SCVs, I guess, because his Hellions don't respond fast enough. So really quite, I would still argue quite dangerous. I don't know how many people are going to be doing this, but he has picked up on a pattern. And he has now abused Dark's pattern, so really good job from Cure. Third CC, well and good. Dark just gonna have to accept that. He did see it at some point. I'm not sure when, but he couldn't stop it. +1 melee is on the way. +1 carapace should be on the way too. There you have it. Dark is setting up on just that pure Ling Baneling so far. You know, Roach game versus Cure. And an attempted Muta game, which was not his best, but yeah. Cure has gone into a Banshee, and a second one is on the way as well. His Cloak did finish, so he's still getting some Banshees, which I guess might just be smart to do against Dark, although it's really quite unnecessary in these games. Because assuming that the Banshees don't do any damage, of course, which is generally the assumption made in professional TVZ, is we kind of look at these Banshees as more like, I'm going to use the word accessories again. They're a handbag, they're not a dress, all right? Pulling out the woman card. But seriously, they are distractions, maybe. They are, guarders of the 3rd CC. They are spotters of common attack paths. They are defenders against a Roach player, but they don't do much damage, so, you know, if those things aren't what you're going to use them for, then it would be argued the Banshees are maybe a bit of a waste. I would say Banshees are hardly ever a waste. Just the presence of them guarding a 3rd or guarding an attack point is good in IMO, but they shouldn't do damage. They shouldn't, but they did. Gotta cancel on a hatchery. Got 2 drones. It's better than the last game, which I think they only grabbed 2 drones. Burrow once again coming out fairly quickly. Didn't really get to see that in action last game, but I assume if it went to the later stages of TVZ, we would have. 4th CC on location. Okay, this one I can't explain. This one I actually, like, this is actually so dangerous. I mean, I can't explain it. I'm going to explain it, but still, I think this is so freaking dangerous. He is, again, assuming that since Dark has gone into a Ling Baneling 4 hatchery style, that's inevitably a 5th hatchery will be on the way, and a non-aggressive Zerg play will be at hands. It's definitely not a guarantee. Definitely not. A Zerg player could go up to 4 base, going on to a 5th hatchery, 75 drones, and still fully intend on sending waves and waves of Ling Baneling toward you. That could absolutely be their intention, in which case a 4th CC on location would be suspect. But in a weird way, there's almost a good chance that even an aggressive Zerg player wouldn't reach towards the 4th first. Usually when we see that type of playstyle, it's like they deal with the drops, they deal with the main push, and then they immediately counterattack, and they don't stop attacking. Trying to overwhelm the Terran before the reinforcements can collect together, which means they don't go towards a 4th base. In a weird way, Cure is reading between the lines accurately. But it really is, it's towing the line. Rather than reading the lines, it's towing it for sure. He gets away with it. His combat shields will finish up. 2-2 is on the way. Actually, Dark's 2-2 is faster as he moves over into Hive. He's got 6 bases and a Rich Vespian Geyser should he want to use it. Doesn't really have to right now. He was on a low gas count last game as well. And we are heading into late game at TVZ on Neo Humanity. Which, I'm not sure who I favor. I guess gut tells me Terran. Feels like Dark is only ever finding out about these command centers once they're already 80% done. Can't do anything about them. But my gut tells me that Terran's gonna win late game on Neo Humanity. Double drop, racing to the middle of the map is a bit unexpected apparently. Nothing to defend until a little too late. Hatchery will die, and the Vipers... That was a weird coincidence. Vipers pop out. Medevac's already picked up all the Marines, however. 6 drones went down with the ship there. And Dark is going to try and make sure that doesn't happen again with some Ling scouting tools. His Ling's going to scout the expansion of his opponents. But this is far too late in the game to really do anything at the drop of a hat. So he's going to have to just wait till he is ready to really start punching the guy. 4th and 5th, or no, far past that. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6th and 7th on the way now. Static defense coming down, I love it. Here, going forward, drop into the main base. Gets kind of bopped there. I was not looking forward to meeting Vipers. That was a bit of a coincidence, I guess. That was a complete boppening for Medevacs. That was a total waste of life. Total. But the good news is the Terran Dominion is okay with gigantic wastes of life when they have 7 orbitals. Not quite there yet, but I do suspect these 2 will be orbitals. So we'll have 5 orbitals, 2 planetaries. That's going to be a 4th factory, by the way, guys. 3-3 for the bio, +2 attack for the tanks, which he is continuing to make. Let's get a quick tank check. Is he caught anywhere? Is he caught anywhere? Oh, beautiful. Little Marine move outs. You want to just fall back to safety. I mean, until we see these giant blobs of either red or blue cross each other's midway line, this midpoint on the map, I mean, we're not going to get too excited, are we? Nope, hey, that's a big blob. That's a big blob of red right on top of Kira's bases. But there's planetary, there are tanks, there are bio units, and should this planetary fall, another one will replace it. Look at that beautiful timing. Just like lift and land, lift and land. Not a total waste of Ling Baneling. Planetary kill, some bio killed, and a command SCVs killed. Here was a little under-defended on that right side. His tanks were not in such abusive positions. There could have been one there and there pre-siege. And then that would have been a little more brutal, I think. Unless I missed them. Possible. And I mentioned this last game, if Kira had a more ideal entry into the late or supreme late game of TVZ, maybe supreme late game would actually be like even more than this. Okay, so the late game, he would have gotten into Hellbats. He didn't get the opportunity to do that last game, but he will this time around. This was a haphazard attack at best from Dark. That was nope, not a good one, not a good one. Not a good one at all. This was an orbital, by the way, not a planetary. I thought it might be possible, but I wasn't sure. So 7 orbitals available. 1 planetary. Still. And yeah, that attack was not so good looking. Lots of Sim City, lots of tanks pre-sieged. Very abusive locations. And now we do have those Hellbats joining in to the battle, properly protecting the tanks from more of the swarm potential. It's actually Dark who hasn't really set up for the super late game. which is a little weird. Oh yeah, the Lings. If the Hellbats weren't there, they may have jumped on top of the ghosts. Jump on top of some of the tanks, jump on top of the ghosts. Little friendly fire might be worth the Lings, but the Hellbats just completely stopped them. But yeah, looking at Zark's composition, and he really did not set up into the late game as much as maybe he should have. Here being on so many bases, both planted on mineral patches as well as extra bases, alongside the number of ghosts that he has, the number of tanks, and the kind of finalized Hellbat composition. It's a pretty perfect late game Terran vs. Zerg army. The only way it gets more perfecter is probably adding in Thors later on. We kind of go into a mech army at some point in late game TVZ. But Dark was really quite stuck on that kind of almost early entry into the late game. Pure Ling Baneling Ultra is more of a composition you get when it's been a very rapid back and forth Marine tank, Marine Marauder tank. Okay, push them back. You know, it's not particularly useful when the Terran's already set up. I mean, basically I'm saying Dark is playing into Kira's position, which doesn't seem ideal. This one was not a bad fight, though. A couple of Blinding Clouds going a long way. That was not too terrible. I would still say, though, that Dark really is in desperate need of some spellcasters. Ling, Baneling, Ultra, particularly the Ultras. The Ultras, I'm going to blame, are not useful. The Vipers are great. The Ling Baneling was great. Fungals, Neuroparasite would be great. Ultra's not great. And I'm not even necessarily that big of a hater on Ultras. Like I said, I think they belong in that context that I described. Marine tank, Marine Marauder tank. Terran falls back and is just barely getting to ghosts. That's the realm in which Ultras look okay. Kind of Broodlords too, to be honest. And we did have 8 Corruptors built, Greater Spire done. No upgrades as of yet. 3-3 done for both of their ground army. Nothing for each other's air, which makes sense for Terran. I don't know where that nuke is. Oh, it's right there in front of me. Whoop. Whoop. Kira's advancements with his army is terrifying. There's a lot of open spaces to the other side. Well, not exactly open, but there's a lot of run-by opportunities on the other locations, which Dark might try to abuse, but he has gone into a more direct army composition. The Ultras, Spellcasters, and Broodlords are not mobile necessarily. Ultras are okay, but Broodlords certainly not. And so you're looking for more direct fights, which again kind of plays into the hands of someone who already has 14 ghosts. So much more often as we head into late game TVZ, we do see Zerg players emphasize Ling Baneling Spellcaster, with the Broodlord transitions being saved for when the map gets smaller, more mined out, and for when there is a bigger, more sudden transition as well. So boom, suddenly 16 Broodlords with their upgrades appearing on the front of your bases. Lings trying to get a wrap around the ghosts. Friendly fire to the tanks doesn't help out too much. SCVs tried their best to save the planetary, but it will fall. Good news is Kira has plenty of extras. Another planetary might fall on the right side as well. Yes, it will. But guess what? Kira's got more bases. And he did do fine against what we'll call the main army of Dark. Dark is the one that cannot afford to replace his bases or his, well, he has bases, but also his army all that quickly. He is still sub 150 supply after just using most of his army to attack. So that's him trying to remax. That's not a good sign. This whole game wasn't a good sign for Dark, and that's very odd, because I don't think that Dark has... I don't know if he's the best late-game TVZ player, but he's like a contender sometimes. He's definitely not the worst late-game TVZ player, and this just did not ever feel very good for Dark. It's like he was playing to a different beat than Cure was. You ever play those rhythm games where you have to, like, drag the DJ, yeah. Like the drag, like the, you know, up and down with the stylus. It's like it was telling him to go up and down, and he was going down and up. And you're just like, no, that's not right at all. Very odd last game there from Dark. A bit reminiscent of his previous round of 8 match. Although that was his decider match, on his winners. But Dark has fumbled the ball previously in the GSL round of 8s, and I just hope he doesn't do it again. And not the best finisher to the winner match. It is still the winner's match. So Cure gets to advance on. He's in the round of 4 once again. Congratulations, Cure. Dark will await the victor of TY versus herO. In the bottom left of Altitude, for game 1 of the loser's match, he is herO. In the top right, we do have TY. herO might not have looked too promising against Cure. Cure is a different beast. And herO didn't look terrible. It just, you know, he was a very good player against the best player. That's what that was. So I think that herO should be favored here. TY is not Cure. TY is not even really TY from 2017-18 situation, right? He is a bit less than. And while herO is having some problems, once again cementing himself as the top Protoss, or the leading Protoss. I mean, he's still a good Protoss. So I think, how to say, most recent... I had trouble with this last week, too. The amount of time that herO has been back the full-time StarCraft 2 pro gaming beats the amount of time that TY has in that regard. And TY is splitting some of his time to play Brood War, which he was very good at, as was herO, but I think TY was better? Yeah, I'm actually not sure. I'm pretty sure TY was better than herO in Brood War. But doesn't mean that TY is super successful in Brood War either. Here. I do wonder what would happen if both of them were trying to do the same thing, though. TY is the most well set up to do so. His StarCraft is in his blood. He started playing Brood War. Well, he started playing it probably when he was like 9. But he was already a full-time pro by the time he was 12, I think. 11 or 12, something like that. Crazy young. He was the first Maru. His nickname is Baby. And anywho, so he's the best potential for the good at both games person. At the same time, there's been players who have been good at both, but at different times. herO would be almost a what's it called when you're doing science and the control? That's what it is. He'd be a good control, you know. Someone who's a little more human than TY, who's a little less like born into the world of StarCraft, and who was a little less good at Brood War, and whose achievements in StarCraft 2 are very similar to TY. I guess you can argue all day about who's actually better in StarCraft 2, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see them do the same thing. Try to play both and see what that looks like. But only one of them is playing both, and that is TY, and I think that is going to be detrimental to his overall skill level in either matchup. Still think it's a wonderful content creation thing to do, though, if that's what he's doing. herO is good. He's solid. He still is playing StarCraft 2 the entire time. Maybe some League of Legends and Brood War on the, you know, you gotta have fun, right, after all. But yeah, he plays a ton of StarCraft 2, and his PvT looked fine. Not great, but it looked fine. And I think fine will be good enough against TY, assuming this does go into more of a macro game, but that is the assumption I'm making, perhaps incorrectly. TY is a master strategist. One of the reasons that I think he has done so well in both games and continues to be able to do well despite his old age and his post-military, you know, presence, whatever, is that he's actually, like, very slow even. He's very effective, but he's not depending on a lot of speed or even the most, like, tippity-toppitest mechanics. I mean, it'd be freaking up there, but he's, certainly now not tippity-top. It depends on his strategies. Salgarith, I think of that tier 1 sub. So, speaking of strategies, we got the longest map in the map pool, I believe. Altitude, certainly one of the bigger ones. And he is going for a bit of a rush. herO did get Hallucination out, which probably was a bit of a bummer for TY. He was hoping to hide things a little bit longer, but that's why herO went for the Sentry first. He knew that TY could be up to some shenanigans. He is very familiar with TY, no doubt about that. So he has prepared what he could, which is an Immortal, Guardian Shield, and a handful of units. Gonna reach towards that tank first and foremost, allowing the Marines to help take out, what was that, the Sentries. However, the Sentries are not the goal of this build. Decent recall as well. There's a handful of units on either side. Main base and whatever this is, 5th, I guess. There is an escape, though. There is an escape. There is an escape. Is there, though? Is there? Is there, though? I don't know, man. There is an escape. There is literally an escape that you, like, is not necessarily getting anywhere, but you can just park your medevac on this location. Exactly. But I thought he would be able to get out of this right direction. He did not. herO was all over that. And now that that's over and done with, he can focus on other things. So Nexus comes down. Twilight Council is already on the way. Warp Prism also on the way. Could have some counter damage done. I'm not sure with what yet. You could just bring 4 Stalkers. The Greater Siege is up. It's going to grab 4 probe kills. 4? You can pick the Stalker. Exactly. herO's still cool, man. He still got it. And like I said, the Warp Prism could be picking up Stalkers. Adepts. Nothing. It's picking up air. I mean, at least it could be going across the map and warping in eventually, but it's chillin'. Perhaps he suspected a follow-up and was thinking Warp Prism Micro? Nah. Warp Prism Micro is pretty good against some tank follow-ups, but nah. He has gone into Templar Archives already, so he is already capable of getting Archons. What is this for? Is he looking to medevac feedback the Raven in the medevac? He is getting Storm, so I guess he is just going to wait out the Storm upgrade, then get Storm drops. Just such a fast Warp Prism. I was just like thinking of a dozen other possibilities. It is the most obvious one after all. It's an Occam's Razor or something like that. It's Storm drops. And I am looking forward to seeing them. TY does not know what his opponent's up to. He saw a robo unit or two, so might be presuming that it is into Colossus. And he would be incorrect.
This better be good.
Research complete.
TY is going to move out, not really knowing what he's moving into. His scan misses the High Templar. Sees another Immortal. Is not going to see this one pop out. No, that's a very ambiguous scan. He does not know what he's falling into. Well, now he knows. Storm drops in the natural, only collecting 5 SCVs. Not too bad for the Terran side of things, because this Archon could add a lot more damage. SCVs, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you stacking up for the Archon? Love of God. No. Jesus. Love of Jesus Christ. Yeah, well, the Archon's out. He's going to go ham on the stacked up SCVs, wherever they are. There's not much shoots up right now for TY. That tank is a little pesky, but... Oh! TY missed turret. Pretty good. It's a good structure to have. We also had probes dying to the drop in the main base by looks of things. Recall finally coming in. No, it was a what am I drop in the natural that distracted him. And then the main base also got dropped, so tit for tat for sure. TY only down 7 workers. It's not that bad. The Avery is only on 2 bases. His third is it to be turned into an orbital, so I think it still overall is better for herO. He had 3 turrets that would have died. Just coming in hot. The hot tips. Gotta email TY at ty@baby.com. Little counterattack is going to be in order. TY does not have a strong response to the storms. There aren't that many of them, but nonetheless, there's no response to them. 2 storms and these Archons and Immortals packing a punch alongside whatever fodder zealots can be included. Gonna be a good thing. Cancelled Ghost Academy, I believe that was. As TY realizes it won't be doing him much good to run back home. Take too long. He goes for the base trade, scans ahead, sees nothing awaiting him. No storms. ready for the potential of a base trade. Splits his army as well. Things are getting a little weird. But I think weird in favor of the Protoss. Storm is going to be used, although it's kind of unnecessary. As the Protoss army is guaranteed to break up to that main base, camp the production. The Terran player is starting to get actually very low on health. Medivacs now coming in. We'll get back to healing, and I guess there'll be time to do so. TY completed the death of the probes on the third base, but didn't actually complete the kill of the Nexus, so that could technically recall these probes, and they could try running elsewhere. If herO thinks about it, herO no doubt focusing on what he can do, which right now is killing all of the production of the Terran, as well as saving the probes. He did already evacuate, so I'm sorry, they didn't die. They just evacuated. They realized what was going down. They heard the sirens. These poor probes did as well, but they were locked in. It's a bit of a base trade, isn't it? For one that favors herO as he comes out ahead on the army supply. He does not have as good of upgrades, and he's not killing the +2 attack, so TY is going to have some killer upgrades. Take down the non-storm units. But taking down an Archon is usually difficult without EMP. And taking down the Immortals might even be a bit of a struggle. There's not that much bio to utilize the +2 attack. TY at 1 command center? No? Oh, he rebuilt it, that's why. So he's... Ah, okay, I can see why they had a false replay in there. Oh, what am I popping off? What am I popping off? No blink on those stalkers after all. And that reduces the army supply of herO a little bit. herO is looking to chase after the medivacs, catch them unloading if he can. Feedback won't do very much. Does not have energy. But now we have players expanding next to each other. TY is re-expanding to his main base, which means not as many minerals. If that even is how long we get this game to go. I suspect not. herO is coming in for the kill. Using the probes, because why not, I suppose. Feedbacks, again, not really worth it. Storm might be, actually. Oh, up, 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 up. The Archons, the storms, the storms, the stalkers, everything coming in. And TY is certainly dead. No question about it now. His army supply is too low. He cannot get back to mining. He's got 2 SCVs that can go ahead and mine. That is it. And he has a lot of faith in these 6 units. I think this is a scout. It looks a little weird, looks a little fantasy GG timing, but I think that was a scout. He wanted to see if there's any probes mining. And if there was, you know, only 1 or 0, then he would have maybe stuck in or like forced a draw or something. But yeah, it's definitely not possible. GG. herO takes game number 1. In the bottom rights for game 2 on Gresvan, we got TY. In the top left, it is herO. Base racing versus Terran is always risky. I don't think so. I do not believe in the saying, never base race a Terran. In fact, I think in TVZ, it's favorable to the Zerg to base race. For TVP, it's very ambiguous, but it's you know, entirely based on how the game has gone. I'm actually not even really sure where that came from, to be honest. At no point in time do I remember thinking concretely that because a Terran was in a base race, they had an X amount percentage advantage, whatever. There is always the caveat that they could force a draw because they can lift buildings, which probably raises their win or not loss percentage a little bit, but I don't think it's actually all that risky to base trade a Terran. Anywho. They didn't have the most potential anyway. Here I was already in a difficult position. A base trade was his only option for the circumstance, which was that he had lost track of the Protoss army. And was not about to return home for that. So herO does take game number 1, kind of as I expected. I do favor herO in this matchup. Should he win here, or 2-0, he will then face Dark in the decider match. And that's... I am curious, because I feel like I haven't seen herO's PvZ all that much recently. What that will mean, if herO wins this match, is that there is a guaranteed non-Terran in the round of 4 of GSL. Lord. No way. But that would be nice. I don't mind TVT, but no one likes the same matchup over and over and over again. One of the additional downsides of RTS, methinks, as far as the esports sphere. One not as often talked about. But in CSGO, it's terrorist versus counter-terrorist, and you both get to play both, so you can't really be biased. The maps can be a little biased, but you can't really be biased. But in StarCraft, not only is there inherent racism, Protoss is stupid, it sucks, I hate it, Zerg's overpowered, it's too strong, nah. There's also the, my race isn't playing, I'm not gonna watch. Wow, herO finds the proxy. He saw the Hellions being reactored out. That is the assumption based off the scout here. And then if you see that, the potential for a medevac drop is much higher. The Hellions not going to go for a drop. The Great Bamboozle. He thinks I'm going to go for a drop. I'm going to go ahead and hit his natural. 6 probes will go down, guaranteed. And then not many more. And the medevac is going to save 2 Hellions, so they can still 2-shot. Which, with a conga line like this, is still a bit dangerous. But yeah, now it's 3-shot. Oh, that's not so powerful. And the medevac is even going to die. Woo! No reason to lose that. Hardly impacted the actual Hellion presence anyway. A big old miss rally from TY, as I said, his mechanics. I'm not sure we're ever the literal best, if you can somehow decide that, but they certainly aren't now, post-military. Counterattack is looking good. There's not much to be had as far as defense for a Terran player after they open up with harassment units that died. So they got a bunker, and that's all well and good, but the Stalkers simply avoid the bunker. 4 of them will one-shot Marines and SCVs. The 2 Adepts could try and enter into the main base, but even if they don't, they could still... Yeah, I guess not really worth. Well, they did actually shade. Maybe it wasn't worth. 5 SCVs killed, a little bit of revenge for the Hellions. Only 1 Stalker died. I thought 2 did. I was wrong. And the Stalker harassment will continue. It's only 2 gateways. But that's still more production than TY had for a little while, with his starport lifted into the air and his factory building its add-on. The starport will die, and TY will need to replace that. Something that you really would have hoped not to have to do. Like, it is possible to save that starport. herO is not going to go into a 3rd base after his 2 gateways. No, sir. He is going to be going into Storm. Looks like he temporarily evacuated his gas geysers. I'm not sure if it was forced or not. Maybe there was a Liberator that I missed? Oh, a Viking landed. Alright. But yeah, he is going into some fast Storm. Templar Archive's already done. Stalker is looking to harass the main base, and maybe more. Yep, definitely. Bunker in the main. Seems like overkill, but TY's not just a low unit count. He's buying the time necessary. The herO is now on 4 gateways. That's many, many, many more Stalkers. And it's just out of that tank range. Some Stalkers actually end up going into the natural. Going to be looking at killing those SCVs. The tank is available, but you could even maybe drop on top of that tank? Maybe? Maybe? Well, you certainly can't drop there. Whoops-a-daisy. Not the best drop there. Much at all. In fact, not the best harassments. herO wanted to open up an opportunity for himself, but TY denied him by being as cautious as he was. Nonetheless, herO going to be working on his way to charge and Storm. Storm actually came in later than I thought it would. Nexus then Storm, I believe is what happened there. As maybe herO changed his mind? Maybe? TY's scan is incorrect, good sir. That's not where the third Nexus is. Hopefully he doesn't take that as the truth, the only truth. The stock control over the situation is still okay, but I'm looking at the supplies, and they really look quite terrible. herO's down 12 workers. The whole 2-base committal before realizing he should go into a 3rd base has really messed up his game plan here. Yeah, he absolutely changes. I mean, he changed his mind maybe probably multiple times, but the dedication to the Stalkers, which did not work out, the dedication to the Templar Archives, which only just now finished up Storm. The 3rd base probably should have been the priority, and then he would have no problem on the economy. While his economy might still be in trouble, he does have superior technology. Storms will blanket this Terran army. Problem usually is that while the bio is a little vulnerable, the tanks are not. And the tanks could be focus firing the High Templars as well. Meaning the chances for a perfect engagement from herO is a little low. Run away, love God, run away! The tanks are left more vulnerable than they should be. Zealots jump on top of them. Storms ward away the bio from reacting, but the missile turret takes out the warp prism, and a couple of liberators came in to really complicate the fight there. And herO's supply looks worse than ever. TY actually looking like he's going to win this game. The follow-up to the Hellion drop was just completely wrong. It was just not good. The idea I don't think was bad at all, but it did not get to execute, so it looks terrible now. herO down 40 supply from TY. TY is getting set up with extra bases, Ghost Academy, Ghosts, upgrades. A little surprising to see a 4th and a 5th come down at the same time. Not very common at all in CVP. Or any matchup, really. Usually it is a pretty, just like 4th base, then you put down your 5th, 6th, and 7th, like at the same time. But TY might have been banking a little bit because his gases weren't fast enough. I don't know. And herO should be in trouble. He's going to try and control the game as much as possible. But he's going to need to add on some secondary technology. It's going to be very dangerous indeed. Zealot run by on a natural, not very effective. The Stalkers hitting the 3rd base. Oh, whoa! Those storms are actually very effective. TY was thinking he was only dealing with the Stalkers, I guess. Kind of looked away for a second. Whoops it, Elzel. And as I was saying, here needs to get onto some secondary splash technology, so Colossus should be on the way, and indeed they are. Upgrade should also be on the way, and only one is so far. Maybe a 2nd forge will be added as soon as his 4th base is saturated. Finally evening up the worker count too, so the Protoss is looking better. It's still not great, as the army supply and the upgrade situation is rather drastic. herO's gonna try and push? Really? Once again, a pesky missile turret is ruining his micro. He does take care of it and gets a storm on top of the Marines, but this just seems so overconfident. But that sometimes is herO. He looks overconfident until he is correct, and then his confidence is perfectly placed. So he's trying to be old school herO right now. And he is taking advantage of TY's, I guess, passiveness is almost trademark kind of passiveness. TY is not moving out. He's still very dependent on his tanks and liberators to help him out against some of the multitasking that herO is throwing at him. A huge army movements, direct army engagements should go well for TY, but if herO focuses on picking him apart, then he might be able to bridge the gap of supply right now. I mean, you can kind of blame TY for letting herO back into this game. Pushing out into Storm with siege units too, so you might get caught by surprise, is no doubt dangerous, but I would have to say, if he was playing like Maru would have moved out 2 minutes ago when there was still a 20 or almost 30 supply lead. Now there isn't. Now there is only a 10, well 20 I guess, but still not as drastic as it once was. Because not only has herO recovered his overall supply, but his worker supply and his base counts, adding in further technology in the form of those disruptors too. And now, yes, working on the double forge. So he will eventually catch up on those upgrades. TY's 2-2 might finish from one of these battles if herO forces the issue anytime soon. Scan on the left side. This time was appropriate. Scanning ahead for a drop. TY's first foray onto the map since really the Hellion drop from earlier on. herO's going to look to chase that down, but also probably re-maneuvering over to the left side. So it's kind of a two birds with one stone situation. Well, he misses the drops, actually.
Warriors have engaged the enemy.
He just missed the drops. That's funny. Scanning the main base is probably looking for that Stargate, and it's a perfect scan. Nicely done. So it shows the potential of a Stargate transition. Now, that is a potential. herO actually has to be very careful. Protoss have to be very careful about this transition. As soon as the Terran player realizes it's underway, that's probably when they move out. And so you might have resources locked into stuff that isn't really working for you yet. Oh, that full disruptor. And there's that move out. herO gonna have to cancel the attack defense, cancel the base, and gets back into a more defensive position. As a High Templar also bites the dust. And we got Storms kind of leading the battles, which is always nice to see, but this is a lot of micro. I mean, if you're just setting up, if you're preparing, then maybe it's micro that a Protoss can do. But, you know, it's very difficult to control your army, concave, surrounds, positioning, disruptors, micro the stalkers, get your Guardian Shield popped up, and micro that Warp Prism. So that's where you usually see High Templars, well, they stop doing Storms, basically, as the game goes on. Quite a powerful position for the tanks. But herO does have a good counter to them, which is just a good number of Zealots if they actually get unleashed here. Even if Phoenix pops out, hell yeah, Stargate takes one tank out of the equation. Two are killed by two disruptor shots, and this was not a good position, apparently. Despite TY having that depth of tanks, EMPs, bio with superior upgrades, that was a boppin'. That was a smack in the face. I think one of the problems was that TY's army was too spread out. It wasn't as effective as he was hoping for. And shout out to that Phoenix. That's an awesome Phoenix right there. Medevac will go down. TY now the one that is down 20 army supply. As he is on the defense, he does need to build back up on the siege units. Now, at this point in time, that's usually Liberators, not siege tanks. Liberators posing bigger threats, I would say, if they had the upgrades. But they don't have any upgrades. TY is not set up for an actual late-game TVP. He was fine as long as he had the advantage from earlier on, but he lost that advantage, and with the advantage lost, he didn't just go back to even. He went back, he went further than that. He went back to straight-up disadvantage, and that is a problem, as he is on his last life in the GSL round of 8. 4 tanks at a time coming out. Oh my goodness. I just don't find late-game tanks all that appealing. TY does, but TY might be wrong about that. Liberators would pose a bigger challenge to herO, but certainly not an insurmountable one. Perhaps TY is dead no matter what. TY is in a ton of trouble. He really needs these extra bases. He needs the gas for them to produce 4 tanks at a time. herO also has the backup plan of the potential Tempest carrier or carrier swap. I'd say Tempest right now. He just needs to get the gas. He is on a lot of bases, but not all the gases have been taken. In fact, many of the gases have not been taken, so a quick transition over into Stargate is not going to be happening. But he might not need it. Mass Charge Light might also do the trick, as it does take out those tanks rather beautifully. Mass Charge Light in late game TVP is somewhat of a... Can we call it fool's gold? It seems like it's a really good thing, but it's really not. But I think against someone who is literally building like mostly tanks, then I think they actually is. They are pretty good. They're pretty gold. That recall was a bit awkward. Lots of the vulnerable units on the front line taken down by the bio. The supplies still remain relatively even. Disruptor pops off, but where are the zealots? Where are those charges that I was talking about? Where the hell are they? They're not here right now, and TY will actually break this base. Even army supplies, superior upgrades for the Terran. But I'm just waiting for the charge lot max out. I think it'd be so effective, especially now that the bio count is so low. And there you go. Bio count's rather low. Medevac energy is very low. And herO just needs another round of another 1,000 minerals invested into Zealots, I think, to break this. He does finally have extra gases, too. That took him a while, but it looks like it's only one extra gas. Replaces the base at the bottom left. TY takes the push as an opportunity to replant both his 4th and 5th base. So apparently this game is not over, but herO also made a made that about as clumsy as possible. Probably, hindsight 2020, should not have recalled, let the base die, and then arrived with a superior force later on, but hindsight's OP. Nicely placed pylon to check out that drop. This middle base has yet to be gotten by herO, so it is completely fresh. And very safe as well. And herO is going to try and charge in with some zealots just to clear out some of the tanks. You know, as far as the actual trades, this might not be going all that well for herO. He might be losing 7 zealots for every 2 tanks killed, which really isn't quite even, but I would say for the eventual outcome, you know, killing enough tanks to then overwhelm, like, that's still worthwhile. Just that heroes aren't really getting the opportunity to overwhelm. His economy was cut deep at a very important time when he was starting to transition, when he was starting to bank, but had not actually accrued a bank. And that has hurt his momentum considerably. TUI now in the lead on the army supply, almost doubling the army supply of herO. And hero's definitely not going to be making a Stargate transition anytime soon. But with one base back up in mining, well, one additional base back up in mining, and another one about to be had with still 86 probes, I think his economy woes will be behind him. And then he will be able to do the maxing out that I've been talking about. So charge lots, then the rest of the army as the tanks get depleted. TY is going for a very push siege hoppy type of composition, bringing along SCVs for the static defense as well. hero's trying to outmaneuver the slow army, which is certainly a response to siege units. Good target fire on top of the disruptors, and hero's really not paying attention to his stalkers. He's not blinked them backwards. He was paying attention to his run-bys, I suppose. Zealots in the main, zealots in the natural, and zealots, I believe, to respond to some of the drops that were happening. And the chaos is being had. TY struggling to complete the cleanup. His production not quite strong enough. And that's a lot of zealots on top of his main. And Zealots on his 4th, which is only an orbital as well. herO really making a comeback thanks to Zealots, but not in the way that I thought they would. The Zealots just going for all the run-bys. Look at what Zealots could do here. Oh man, a Zealot bomb. Bring TY back to his Brood War days would be excellent. Ah, well. What are you gonna do? herO has got all of these bases mining once again with that superior probe counts. He finally is working on his Stargate transition. And 2 Tempest is really all you're going to need to start pushing back this tank count. TY has no solid response to the air, so while the Tempest might take a little while, they will eventually get the job done. And herO once again back in the main base. The Warpism did not die. Stalkers and Zealots included this time around. Disruptors are here to help defend if the Tempest can't do the job. The Tempest, as I said, will eventually. Yeah. herO has so much bank. TY has not realized just how much herO has re-expanded. He knows about the bottom left base, which is not good, but he does not know about this middle base, which I believe is off-center. Hello? Doesn't matter, still mining. And the army that has been built up in the main base is certainly worth recovering. herO, once he got these bases back up and running, really, you could see just like exploded in supply. It was a real struggle for him to get the supply up beyond 130, it was, I think. And then it got to 150, and then it just skyrocketed up to 180 in the blink of an eye. And TY is the one that is struggling to build another army. He is getting Blue Flame. I imagine to deal with the Zealots, which is interesting. Also has been proven ineffective in this matchup. People have tried, and it has failed. But I like when TY tries things. Disruptors and Tempests and Zealots. That's all you need here. TY had a couple of moments where he could actually have won this game. But at the end of the day, it is going to be herO with a 2-0 to move on to the decider match versus darK. TY is just displaying it again. That's not quite fantasy GG kind of. Explosions are cool. Wouldn't mind drops on top of a Protoss army are always cool, but they just don't amount to very much. GG! herO will move on to the decider match. Hey, welcome back, everyone. Our recharge for the decider match. In the bottom right of Gresvan, we have the blue Zerg darK. And in the top left, it is herO. So herO gets to try his luck versus a Zerg this time around. I haven't seen this matchup of him in a little while. I will favor darK gut instincts. I think darK is... No, deserving is always a really weird word. Competition literally tells you who deserves what, but I feel like darK is bound to make it into the round of 4. He was supposed to last season and then dropped the ball at the very last second. Like, it was really quite odd. It went from an almost guaranteed victory, considering the first time he played versus Beyond, to being a question mark the second time faced Beyond. But if the rematch curse was at hand, there is no rematch curse this time around. So if darK loses here, I would chalk it up to, not nerves, but the oppressive weight of being on your final life. I don't know. Because I just really don't think he should. herO is he's still good at PvZ, but he is different than he was 6 months ago. Certainly not leading the charge for Protoss everywhere like he was a year ago. So, I mean, I think it'll be good games. I just believe in darK's potential to make it to the round of 4. And like I said, the good news is, no matter who you're cheering for, we can all agree that a non-all-Terran round of 4 is a good thing. And whoever wins this is a non-Terran. So, that's great. And the, I guess, question of what would make better games, well, darK making it through would make better games, fortunately. herO versus Maru is not as hype as it once was, I believe. herO versus Cure, well, we saw what happens. And herO versus someone else. Gumiho? Gumiho. Well, that would actually be very interesting. That would be cool. That would be cool. But then, you know, like, it depends on how the round of 4 bracket gets set up. Anywho. Not TVT. That's good news. Twilight Council is on the way for herO as he looks to perhaps Resident Glaives rush darK. He did get the lock on the natural hatchery, which means a slightly more inefficient drone mining, as well as a lack of creep spread between all the bases. Which, I mean, it'll be connected, but just won't play very much by the time the Adepts show up. The Overlord should have seen the warp gate timing and known that there is a Twilight Council. There is a very small chance that it's a robo. Very small. But if it's Twilight Council, is it for Resident Glaives or is it for a Dark Shrine? Something that darK cannot tell until he gets an Overlord right up on in there, which he's not choosing to do. He's just leaving it at the natural. So, it's probably Resident Glaives, but I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the 150 gas. It is a Dark Shrine. I was gonna say, should that not be already on the way? But yes, it is a Dark Shrine. That's what he was waiting for. So darK doesn't know about the options here. We have the God Vision of the production tab and the resources collected Dark does not. All he sees is Adepts, warp gate timing. That's it. So Dark best be producing at least one safety spore crawler, as he knows it's most likely not a Stargate. It could be a trick Stargate. Those do happen, but it's most likely not at this point. One safety spore in case it is a Dark Shrine, and then maybe something else will tip him off to the potential, such as the lack of Adepts, the lack of Adept pressure, the Warp Prism heading in a unique direction, so on and so forth. And the Overlord is going to take its chances heading to the main base. It really could have from the get-go, but that's kind of the weird thing that happens in pro games, I guess, where it's like the assumption is it's going to be taken care of by something. So then when it finally decides to go ahead and scout, it doesn't work out. Dark is preparing a Baneling defense. Without Roaches, Adept attack might have been a little sketch, but no, it's not that. It is just DTs. 3 DTs getting warped in a very, very safe location, giving Dark plenty of time to, well, question mark, to get his Lings across the map. It's not exactly... It's not going to work out. Shield Battery, Adepts are prepared. Those Lings better be back at home. Those DTs chasing after the Queens. Squeal! Pick it! There's actually a Spore Crawler over here, but there's 3 DTs versus 3 Queens. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Oh, now making the 5 Queens! No! Oh, no. Burt Reynolds came in with a crossbow and shot that Warp Prism to death. Oh, no! I thought it was like cinematic. That was those extra 2 Queens really just ruined hero's chances, and now the Baneling bust will continue. Something that I think Dark was thinking of with his first Ling movement, but now gets to actually do. Nexus is goner. DTs killing 1 Ling at a time will not be fast enough to save the Nexus. And a couple of Adepts are not finding the same damage on the other side of the map. Full Nexus killed, only 2 drones and a Queen. Do the math. Okay, make that 3 drones. I'm sorry. The Ling bust will continue! The Adept's barely getting to place on time. Baneling could detonate on the DTs if he sees it. Wouldn't kill him though, so not much of a use, I suppose. And hero's follow-up plan might just be to do a Adept Stalker, or Archon Stalker attack. Yeah, the problem is he has no Twilight Council upgrade, so it's not very impressive no matter what he does. If he had Charge Archon attack might still be kind of frightening. He's getting Charge. It's a bit late though. So this really can't be a 2-base attack. I mean, this might be production, then 3rd base, with a little movement out on the front lines. A little, you know, waving her hands in front of the Zerg's faces. But other than that, not much. Warp Prism was rebuilt. The Queens were once again tasked with taking that down, which means they're not injecting very often. And since Dark was going majority Lings, this is a little concerning. But has now added on a Roach Warren, so as far as a larva problem, it's not as much of a problem. Some drones getting awfully stacked up, so these Archons are doing more damage than the DTs ever did, and the Warp Prism will survive this time. Lings are waiting outside the natural, waiting for the army to move out, either to take a 3rd base or to actually initiate the all-in. And it is going to be an all-in. I mean, Charge is a fairly fast upgrade, I suppose, but it just, it's so awkward. It's so awkward, and Dark is very aware of this potential. If he saw a 3rd Nexus, he just could easily kill it, and then he'd still be ahead even if this wasn't hero all-inning. As long as he produced army, you know? Dark is basically at no... He has no fear of falling behind in a macro game. He knows it's all about the here and now, so he's built up the Roaches, bringing the Queens back to the front lines, even the Spy and the Spore trying to help out here, and that might just do the trick. As more Roaches sprinkle in and the Lings come back to wrap around the non-Archon units, that will absolutely do the trick. The Dark has got game 1 here, no problem. And herO is out of options. That was his last all-in that was really possible. He's gonna try and do a Disruptor all-in, okay. I don't know, Kev. Seems unlikely to work to me. What was Mr. Bitter even saying, I don't know, Kev, about? Is Roddy saying incorrect things? I don't think so. Perish the thought. When behind Robo Bay? Well, you can't go into the Dark Shrine. It doesn't work that way. I know, Fracticaxel. Imagine Roddy doing something. Cha. Gas guys are destroyed. It's not the worst thing for Dark. It's a little impactful, but not super much. Dark has plenty of army on that foundational 55 drone 3 hatchery setup. And just needs the Overseer over here. Running into the DT swipes and the Archon Blast isn't usually ideal, but there you go. And the Warp Prism will try its best to juggle these Immortals. hero's got some damn fine micro, but Dark has the supply, tripling the army supply of the Protoss. Yeah. Immortals really can do a lot when they're properly micro. Disrupt is going to try and get this fantastic shot. Will it get it? No, it will die instead. It will die along with hero's dreams of winning game number 1. Come on. Come on. It is not hero's last life yet, but it's getting dangerously close. Dark is looking to achieve what he barely missed out on in the last season, which is to actually make it to the round of 4. And I believe he's going to do it. Let's see if hero can strike back in game number 2. In the bottom left of Royal Blood now, we do have hero. In the top right, it is Dark. So, yep, hero's DT plan not really working out very much. It's not the worst thing in the world. The correct speed needs to be had. Not the worst thing in the world for the DTs not to do damage. We know this from over a year of that being the meta a couple of years back. DTs don't have to do the damage. They can just morph into Archons and still find enough to do to make it worthwhile. Great harassers, great scouting, and very good on the defense as well if they decide to attack you. So it has certainly fallen out of meta. I think Zerg players, much like their 2-1-1 response in DVT, we're just getting too damn good and anticipating it and reacting to it perfectly. So no, oh, what if he does this? What if he does that? Like, I don't know. Maybe this, maybe that. No. Zerg players were like, oh, okay, it's this again. And they were so perfectly defending it. Also, Dark doing a little bit of trickery right there. It was bound for hero to go check for the 3rd base, so he waited till that happened to get the natural. Trickery is kind of a strong word for it, to be honest, but yeah. Hero is not going to block that hatchery. But losing the Warp Prism out last game, that's a death sentence. Always has been with that opener. It require quite the slip up from the Zerg player to lose out in the game after the Warp Prism dies. And what's hero's plan for game number 2 as we look towards him to make the first move? With a Stargate, then a little bit more macro will be at hand, and it might be Dark who starts to be aggressive. But we're now waiting for the Cybernex core to give us a clue. Let's take it on. One of the faster buildings, which is why you produce it when you look to block something. Stargate comes down. So, with that later warp gate, Dark will be able to tell that it is a Stargate, and if it's a Stargate, then it's not very aggressive, which means that Dark gets to get up to 3 bases, no problem. And then what does he do? Well, it wouldn't be very much of a surprise if he just went ahead and attacked the damn guy. 3 base, 55 drones, Ling, Roach, Ravager. Would not be out of character for Dark. But hero on a Stargate can be more frightening than other people. Not necessarily because of his Oracle control, which is great, sure, but because his follow-up to the Stargates is where he was making his money. So, He was using the triple Oracle, or more, actually, sometimes more, to go into the Blink Stalker aggression. That would then lead into some very back and forth games of mass gateway, which made PvZ much more interesting than the previous meta. And herO still does that occasionally. Everyone still does it occasionally. It just isn't the only thing being done by him anymore. Oracle number 1. Number 2 on the way. Spore Crawler's almost ready. Queens are repositioning. And the third base is not even, you know, full yet, so it's not going to be in danger. No worries there. I am very keen on seeing herO's Twilight Council follow up. I'd really love to see it. Third Nexus first and third Oracle first, but then perhaps Twilight Council afterward. Adepts trying to coordinate with the Oracles to get some damage done. This is good use of the units. They gotta protect each other, or well, the Oracles have to protect the Adepts. I guess the vice versa situation doesn't really happen. And no extreme Twilight Council follow-up. No 3 cast build. And the Twilight Council that will more than likely be accompanied by a Forge. There it is, as well as a Robo a little later down the line. It's been a long day casting. We're running out of words. So Revelation, just see what's going on here. If they could scout that is an Evolution Chamber, for instance, then that would be ideal. However, the Revelation missed any drone, so it will not see the Evolution Chamber. Quite unlucky there from herO. He might eventually see it or just pick up on the mere absence of a Roach Warren, but right now does not fully know about the +1 melee. Drones are under attack at the third, but not many will fall. And the 2 Oracles, the healthy ones, try to come back in for another. 4 drones in total. So far, a perfect game from herO, by the way. He sends more Adepts across the map on the right side this time around. He does have a decent ground army, actually. Could have been... Oh, those were the 4 Adepts. Okay, I was wondering why he had 8 Adepts. Counting hurting. The 4 Adepts could have been a little sneak attack. Instead, they get snucked. They get snooked. They get caught by the Lings. Oracles to come back and help. And now, the Queens, what the hell? Wait, what? Oh my god, he's gonna go for an all-in. Ling Baneling on the way here. Dark wanted to go for a Ling Baneling attack in the last game. Had to pause for a second as he was attacked first. And is doing a kind of different iteration of the Ling Baneling attack, bringing the Queens forward with that +1 finishing in 20-30 seconds time. herO now realizing, what the shit? It's gonna be an all-in. Getting shield batteries aplenty every which way we look. And that would usually be go a long way to defending against this, because you can also get cannons, which is exactly what he's doing. It's a lot of Queens that aren't involved in the fight quite yet, so Oracles with some energy to use here don't choose to use it on the Banelings while they have the opportunity. Is that the mistake? Nope, actually, it looks like herO was right not to be too scared of that. He did build all the side defense necessary, which is I think very important, but he didn't actually try and panic and go after the units with his Oracles. The Queens will retreat. Stark now looking very awkward as he runs back home with slow-ass Queens, trying to replace everything he was supposed to have instead of the Ling Baneling, such as hatcheries and drones. But it's looking really weird now as herO links forward aggressively. He's gonna chase after some of the Queens. Queens turn around and fight. What else can they do? And the Lings are just hoping for the opportunity for a surround, but so far have not been able to gain one. And the creep is looking a little dangerous, though. I think herO should maybe, consider not continuing to chase. So herO deflects the attack here from Dark, and Dark means to make it look like it was just a prank, bro. Don't worry about it. But it looks like herO did overextend. Oh no, the +1 melee Lings fighting into the Stalkers, taking down so many of them, forcing a complete retreat from the Protoss back to a base that has yet to have any static defense. Ouch, kabibbles. It's a lot of space bought from Dark with that. He can secure his 4th base, which I don't know if it would be under attack previous to that, but definitely secure now. And he can buy more time for more units, which he actually is going to need a lot more units in terms of Queens. He's lost some queens, but they also were injecting, so he also needs more macro hatcheries, which means that he already had one, but needs another one. Looks like he's going to be going into Ling, Baneling, maybe even Ultra by the hive timing here. If he can buy enough time, and that will be very effective against herO's composition. Totally immortal lists, in fact, still robo lists. Probes go down at the somewhere. Up, there we are. At the third base. The Banelings rolled on in. 15 probes are killed, and Dark is still buying that time. He's also buying a distraction. The Oracles have not tried to go for any scouting for a while. They're accompanying the main army. The main army sometimes can get scouting done, but right now all they see is pure Ling. +2 melee not quite done, but Carapace will finish up in a hot second. Ditto on the Protoss units. So herO leading, evening up the upgrades. Both their attack upgrades quite close together. Dark just trying to buy some time for that +2 melee to finish as well. Queen's trying to be the perfect time buyers. They do take some time to destroy. Stasis traps popping off left and right, taking out chunks of the Ling army. Dark, fortunately, has spent all of his money. That would have been the real concern, honestly, is whether or not he could have spent all of his minerals onto pure Ling. That is difficult to do for anyone. That 65 drones is a totally incredible economy. But Lings are so freaking larva intensive. herO's little breather that he gives himself to maneuver over to the right side opens up the opportunity for Dark to swamp him with Lings. And that's exactly what happens here. The Lings getting another surround on top of the Stalkers. The numbers of the Lings just maybe too much. No Archons, no Zealots, no shield battery until just now. Proved devastating for the Protoss army. As perhaps herO is also not accounting for that +2 melee to kick in when it did. That now confirms that Dark will be able to make it to Ultralisks. Before, it was a little suspect if the Stalkers were continuing to bounce around his creep and his hatcheries. That would have been quite dangerous, because then he also would have been building Ultras into the Stalker aggression. So one Ultra pops, boop, gets sniped. Now, if he continues buy time with run buys, he guaranteed will have the chitinous plating, handful of Ultras, of course, all of the Lings that he can afford, with not just that +2, but also Adrenal Glands. Dark prioritize that first and foremost. Immortals could be on the way here as you see Robos being slapped down. herO might have picked up on what's going on. He has not done any scouting. Oh, he barely caught a glimpse of the Ultralisk Cavern is what he did. Okay, so that's a pretty direct scout then. But I also would have been totally fine believing that herO just figured, that's a lot of Lings and nothing else. What the hell are you doing? But scouting the Ultralisk Cavern is the best possible situation. herO is on 4 bases, going up to a 5th, so while he temporarily dipped down in supply by about 40, he was able to replace it. I love that the accidental swarm host is trying to do something. You go, buddy. Do it, girl. But all of this just means that Dark is going to get to his cracklings and ultras, and herO has not yet set up an anti-ultra defense. I mean, it's really hardly even anti-Ling, right? You want Archons for that. Archons and ultras, Archons and Immortals against Ling and ultras. Needed right here, right now. Cracklings take down a Nexus far too fast, even with the overcharge available. And herO will have to replace that as opposed to putting all of his resources into those Archons and Immortals like I was talking about. I guess Archons are gas anyways, but he also hasn't taken his gases, so he cannot place down that many Archons all that quickly. Just a couple at a time. Might not be good enough. Dark is on 5 bases. Equal workers, both over 80. Lots of upgrades finishing up. He's got all of these Lings just waiting to run around all the bases, possibly getting to a Nidus Swarm as the game goes on. And they're also going to be accompanied by Ultras, so the Protoss army will always have to be together in the proper layers. If the Immortals are left alone, you see what happens. If the Archons are left alone, that actually could be vulnerable to the Ultras even. But so far, the Ultras have yet to make an appearance. Oh, there they are, killing that 4th base, getting into the probe line. 4th base will survive. 5th base might survive as well, but the probe certainly did not, and it looks like a lot of the army of herO also died in the attempted defense. A 60 supply gap. Dark is controlling this game well and truly at this point. A little suspect after the failed attack, but thank goodness for macro hatcheries. Oh, the Nexus was killed, by the way. Doesn't take many Lings to kill a Nexus when they have all their upgrades. Oh, no. Oh, absolutely devastating. These aren't just cracklings, guys. These have burrow. They're gonna burrow in every little nook. The observer can't chase them all down. We don't even have an observer. The robos were made to build immortals as fast as possible, not observers. So this just gets worse and worse. It gets more annoying. If herO even wins this game, he'll be so tilted from it. I don't know about the third one. But of course, I don't think he's gonna win this game. Speedy little ultras. Trying to also help out those lings, but they hardly need any help. Revelation caught one pack, but not the other. It looks like herO is going to go for the big push. When his army is correctly stacked, Zealots, then Stalkers, then... Well, no, Zealots and Archons, then Stalkers and Immortals. Something like that. Then, yeah, it's a pretty good army. But it's not maxed out, and it's not always in that perfect stack. Love that he's losing, that's one most. Oh, this is the type of game that gets so much more frustrating for the Protoss and so much more fun for the Zerg. It's just fun. It's just neat. It's a completely harrowing, adrenaline-pumping game up until you have the map control, and then you're just like, lings, 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 lings. Baneling speed only just now being researched. You didn't need Banelings for a while there. Revelation didn't catch the Swarm Host. So it's still up and running. And herO is getting down to his last few mineral patches. The main is once again open, I believe. That was not a full wall. Just a little tower defense going on. Not good enough against Cracklings. 7x core means no more Stalkers. And the Immortals are popping out into their deaths. As the Lings are just every which way, man. And that's not even Dark's real army. He's got so much supply locked up in Ultras and Queens. If herO does go for the last hurrah, the last fuck it, he is going to be meeting the immortal army of Ultra Queen. It will never die. And herO is, I mean, he should be going for the last hurrah. I mean, there's not really another choice. He really would love to get in their fourth base while pressuring, because then maybe that opens up an opportunity for follow-up, but Lings and burrows and blah, 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 blah is really stopping him from being able to do so. There's the attack, and there is the awaiting arms of Ultra Queen. Now, Ultras by themselves would not win against this, probably, but the mass transfuses come in, and you can see the Ultras are still alive and well, chasing down the remnants of the army. The Oracle's now goners as well, out of energy. And while the Ultras might eventually get taken down, because pure Ultra's not usually all that great, the Remax is there for Dark. And the Ultras did do the trick at the end of the day. Dark will 2-0 herO and move over into the round of 4, as he was destined to do. He really should have gotten there last season, and now he gets there with almost ease. GG. herO will not be presenting the Protoss race in the round of 4, but the Zerg race will be represented. And so we have 3 Terrans and a Zerg duking it out in the round of 4 and the finals on Thursday morning for most people. Hope you guys enjoyed the cast. Please follow the channel if you like my casting, and I will see you guys later. Bye.